It is 00:00, and you are listening to the Best of Bond with your hosts Tylord and Wubs.
I must say, it's lethal.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best of Bond with your hosts Wubs and Tylord here. And today we are going to review one of our favorite movies once again, Live and Let Die from 1973, directed by Guy Hamilton. And this is like a new era. We got a new Bond. We got a new music composer. Kind of like a fresh start on Bond, like the third movie in a row with a non-consecutive Bond, which is a strange time in the Bond history. Live and Let Die. Are you excited, Wubs?
Oh yeah, I couldn't be more excited for this one. This is one of my favorites in the whole series, and I think it is one of your favorites as well, right?
Oh yeah, ever since I've seen this movie, it's been one of my favorites. Like, I couldn't get enough of this. So when I first saw the movie and I heard that song, like, that song was just stuck in my head and I'd be whistling it all the time. I think just now before we were recording, you could hear me. I was whistling this tune.
Yep.
Wait, yeah, I saw that it wasn't the first movie I saw, but it was one of the early, maybe like within the first 10 movies I ever saw. Um, I didn't see them in order, so I didn't realize chronologically how all the movies fit in. But I figured it was later on after Sean Connery because Roger Moore was in it. But I didn't really know where it was before or after The Spy Who Loved Me. But yeah, Roger Moore's first movie, and yeah, wow, this one, I think this may have been another one that I recorded off of television. I would watch it over and over and over. Um, yeah, really great history with this. Like that, we're going into my favorite James Bond. Roger Moore is my favorite. I know I've been hyping up Connery and Lazenby a lot, but Roger Moore, this guy, not so much just him, but this era of movies, like, it's just one banger after another with him. Um, I always just figure them the same guy. Like, I never noticed the little subtle differences between Connery and Roger Moore when I was a kid. I go, oh, it's Bond. He's always with his one-liners, suave, ladies man, action guy. But there are a lot of little subtle differences we'll probably get to in a little bit with Roger. But yeah, always my favorite Bond, and this is one of my favorite movies. I just remember, like, the ensemble of villains in this. Like, we were talking about how good it was in Diamonds Are Forever. I think this one like, just blows away everything before. Just like all of the villains, the weird, wacky villains in this one, like this kind of teases you with, like, the supernatural. Like, this is almost like the most supernatural or horror movie or sci-fi movies of all the Bond movies. There's like supernatural elements that they tease in this, and I always thought that was cool and different. I like to see Bond out of his element in a movie because he's always smooth and calm throughout everything, and he's really out of his elements in a lot of different ways in this movie we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, I always loved this movie ever since I was a youngster. What about you, Wubs? What's your history with this, and what was your opinion on it
Yeah,
before our most recent review?
you mentioned that it was kind of the most one that was or the movie that was more like a horror movie. It had more horror elements than
Yeah,
a lot of the others. Had some
yeah,
legitimate, jump scare kind of scary moments that you experience along
yeah,
with Rosie, right, when she gets really freaked out, different,
yeah,
parts of the voodoo culture. And
yeah,
not only that, but just like the imagery of the film in general is pretty dark, and
yeah,
the intro sequence, we'll get into more details later, but it shows a skull on fire. It's
yeah.
pretty dark imagery compared to the films before and after it, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that's why this movie always just sticks out to me. We were talking about how different all the movies are. I think even up to this point, like, they're not all the same. They're so different in so many ways, but this one's really sticks out. Like, it's just so different. I think it really hits hard with the comedy, with the Tom Mankiewicz writing. but I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a little more hard. It's a little more hard edged and nail biting than Diamonds Are Forever. Like that, there was not really a serious moment in that movie. This one has a lot of comedy, but a lot of intense and violent and scary moments.
Well, it's so interesting how they balance that, right,
Yeah,
in this film
yeah,
compared to Diamonds, because
yeah,
Diamonds, as we
yeah,
talked about last week, was pure comedy, right? It's really just a
yeah,
comedy movie, but the plot
yeah,
is one of, if not the darkest plots to that point in the series, right? As
yeah,
far as
yeah,
destroying all the nuclear weapons
yeah,
and Blofeld going for total world domination and in the most violent way he
yeah.
has to that point, right?
Hmm.
But Diamonds
Yeah,
is a hilarious movie, and just the tone of the movie is so fun and funny. There's never really a moment where you're like, "Oh God, what's James Bond gonna do here?" Like it's so scary, right?
yeah,
Connery's just totally
yeah,
suave and smooth and just above it
yeah,
all
yeah,
through the whole thing.
yeah.
And with this
Hmm.
film coming right after it, I don't think it could have been more different in terms of just the vibe of
Hmm.
it. It's so dark. You've got a new James Bond
Hmm.
actor, unproven, and
Hmm.
it's not like he just walks on the screen as Connery after, 5 films before that and you just know he's going to be
Yeah,
fine. There's definitely more of a vibe of who is
yeah,
this guy? What's he how
yes.
is he going to react and deal with these challenges that are seemingly
Hmm.
pretty insurmountable. I mean, the villain in this is
Yeah,
absolutely diabolical, has an amazing
yes,
network of henchmen and supporters, and the scheme is, I think, one of the best in the series, as we'll get into when we talk about the
yes,
plot later. But it was a huge
yeah,
challenge for a new Bond, I think, a new actor to go against
hmm,
this villain in his first film.
yeah. No, I agree completely.
So
Yeah,
you asked
and
about my history though with the movie. I saw it when
yes,
I was a
yes,
kid as
yes.
well. I saw it relatively young. I remember being freaked out by it, all the voodoo
Hmm.
stuff when I was a kid. Like I hadn't seen
Yeah.
any of that stuff before. Like it gave me some nightmares,
Hmm.
I think, as I remember. So I
Yeah.
didn't even make it through my first viewing of this because I saw it so young. I had to stop
Yeah.
watching it. But
Yeah.
as I got older and saw the movie again later on and saw the whole thing, I was
Mhm.
like, wow, this is a great movie. I
Yes.
I don't think I even got to the part with JW and the boat chase when I
Yeah.
saw it the first time. Which obviously
Yeah.
adds a lot of levity to it as violent as
Yeah.
that chase is. Still, it's just the
Yeah.
funniest part of the movie, really. And
Yeah.
so it really helps to balance it out, I think. And that's the other thing that's so interesting about it versus Diamonds. Like I said, Diamonds being pure comedy. This is kind of like well, it has elements of horror and comedy, and they balance it really well. Like it's really
Hmm.
amazing. Like you get the both of those experiences a bit in the movie, and that's one thing I really like about it because I'm a big fan of both of those genres.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. This is the movie I tell like kids or people who have never watched the Bond movie. I always gravitate to this one. I tell them watch Live and Let Die.
Hmm.
I know like some people can't get through like the first act, like the first half or the first act of a Bond movie because it's a lot of plot and
Right.
talking. Like kids that are hard to get through. But like once you get like halfway through this one, this is kind of like On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where it's just like the second half of the movie is just a roller coaster ride of action with that wonderful boat chase too. Like this is the one and something about this style, it's the style of this movie and the music. I think it's so timeless and it's of its time, but it's just such a timeless, fun movie.
And not just any
Scary
boat
too.
chase, right?
Yeah,
Not just any boat chase,
yeah,
as Tom Mankiewicz wrote in the script. The best boat
yeah,
chase you've ever seen was what was written in the
yes,
script, right?
yeah,
For so long,
yeah.
no one knew what that
Right.
meant until they started filming. But that's what he wrote in the script, and they sure pulled it off.
Yes. Oh, they sure did. Yeah, man, it's so amazing. Yeah. So yeah. So I think yeah, we both have a wonderful history with this movie. And it starts off a little bit different. But we don't see Bond in the opening title sequence. We see the gun barrel a brand new gun barrel sequence with Roger Moore, and I think he's my favorite gun barrel actor. Like his little strut, I love it the way he walks over, and then his point, he uses both hands. For Roger Moore being so nonchalant and posh and prissy, like he uses like a proper gun stance, like he holds with both hands. Like all the other ones, flail their arms out and shoot with one hand, but he does like the proper two-handed grip.
Right.
But and then it has that funky Bond theme. George Martin did the music for this. And as much as I hate to see John Barry not there, I think George Martin nails the theme of this movie. It would be weird to see what John Barry would have done with this. I know it would have been good, but this it's so rock and so funky. This soundtrack, it's so awesome, and we get that really awesome gun barrel music. And then it opens right up to an opening without Bond, and this really hasn't happened since From Russia with Love, when we had a doppelganger that looked like Bond, but it wasn't Bond.
Right.
But we're just going all around the world showing Kananga's power, how he's taking out all these British agents. I think it starts off at the UN meeting, and one of Kananga's men, I don't know who it is, you see a hand. They do some silly trick where they his headphone jack, they put some kind of electrical cord in there, they shock him. I don't know if he's a British diplomat or a spy, or who was that guy that they shocked at the beginning.
I'm pretty sure it was the UN ambassador from Britain.
Yeah, UN ambassador. Yeah, UN
And
ambassador from Britain.
you could tell that it was bad, right? Because the hand
Yeah.
that the hand plugs in the red cord into the UN,
Yes.
ambassador, the British one. Everybody else has a white cord. They unplug the white cord, but they plug the red one in before he plunges the plunger down, and the guy just gets, I guess, some sort of sonic crazy, waves into his ear, and it kills him.
Yeah. That was it. Yeah, and I noticed Kananga was there. Like, so we get to see the villain and the girl really early on. I guess like Solitaire in Kananga's when Mr. Biggs in his Kananga persona, I guess like Solitaire's like his secretary or his assistant, or
Right.
But we see both of them there at the UN meeting, and then the British guy dies. He has a good little death scene, and then like the Swede was next to him, like they don't even give a damn, like he like the guy dies right there. I think it's the Swedish guy next to him doesn't care. And they're all looking around like, what's going on? And then it goes to New Orleans with that cool little like funeral band. And I guess that was a real little funeral group that plays music in New Orleans there. That this is a cool, really surreal, scary moment, but kind of silly and funny. The British agent, was his name Hamilton? I think he was named after the director. Was that Hamilton or was that Baines?
Yeah, Baines was in San Monique. Hamilton was in New Orleans.
Yeah, Hamilton. And then we get to see like this movie has just like an ensemble of so many different villains. Like it kind of shows how much power Mr. Big has throughout all of his communities. Like he has so many people working for him. But we have Hamilton. There's a British agent, and he's watching this funeral parade go by, and it's slow, and it's kind of a slow, sad little march. And the little midget guy walks up next to him, and then Hamilton asks him, "Whose funeral is it?" And then the guy pulls out a switchblade, "Yours," and stabs Hamilton. And he falls down in the middle of the street, and then the funeral marches by, and the coffin goes over him. This is a really, really ominous scene. Like it's really cool. It's one of the scenes that always sticks with me. Like one of the most like surreal, scary moments in a Bond movie. The coffin lowering down over Hamilton's body, and then like you're a click, and then it raises back up, and Hamilton's body's gone. It's inside the casket, and then the funeral music goes from a slow march to like that happy "When the Saints Go Marching Home" song. then it turns into a big happy parade, and they go off with Hamilton's body. So that was like a cool, uh, a really scary, ominous, but funny little death scene. And then we go to the fictitious island San Monique, which is where Kananga is he the prime minister, the president of San Monique?
Yeah, I think he's the prime minister. I can't remember
Yeah,
what their government structure was supposed to be, but
yeah,
anyway, he's the head honcho.
yeah.
He's the Mr. Big of San Monique.
Yeah, Mr. Big of Sam. So it goes to San Monique, but not like the city or anything. It's a scary little voodoo village with this little scary chapel. This gave me this really was scary to me when I was a kid. This area with
Oh
all
yeah.
of the voodoo all the voodoo dancers dancing around, and they're like making out with the poles and doing these weird dances. And I guess what's his name? Baron Samedi. We'll get to him later, but Jeffrey Holder was a big dancer. He was like a
Hmm.
big wig in the Caribbean, and he actually choreographed all of that. That was pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, Jeffrey
But
Holder
all
had his own dance school, I think, by this point, right?
yes, yeah,
So he was already
yeah,
very
yeah,
well established in the industry and uh,
yeah,
quite famous, I think, even before this film.
yeah, yeah. And then we see Baines there, the British agent, tied up to the poles, and like he's a sacrificial lamb or whatever. And then we see that as the guy's credited as Dambala, but they never say his name. But I always thought that guy was scary as hell. Like he has like a goat, like
Right?
he has like a goat a carcass or like the skin over his in the for like his head. He has like the goat, and he's holding that scary green snake, and he's
Yep.
like a really buff guy, and he's dancing around. Well, this guy's scary. He has a snake, and especially at the end when he's holding the snake up to Solitaire, I go, that was so scary. But he's holding the snake up to Baines, and I think they used a real snake. And that guy, I think Jeffrey Holder and that actor were both deathly scared of snakes, and
Yep.
but
Yep.
you wouldn't know from watching the movie. But here comes Dumbala, and he's doing his little dance up with that green snake, and then the snake strikes at Baines and kills him. And then the music, it was climaxing, like all the drum beat and everything, and then it sort of ended with that.
Well, and he faints,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He
He
faints off to the
faints. Yeah,
side.
yeah,
That I don't think the snake even
yeah.
strikes, right? He just gets really
Oh
close,
yeah,
and it's all just supposed to be
yeah,
out of the fear of it is what kills him, right?
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
a metaphor
That's
for
true.
the
Yeah,
island because Kananga's whole thing was
the fear.
creating the
Yes,
fear of all the voodoo stuff and keeping people
yes,
away from the island.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's what kept them away from the drugs or
Right. All kept him
yeah.
away. And the thing with that was interesting about the scene there was that the
Mm-hmm.
actor who played Baines was, as you said, deathly afraid of snakes. And in that scene, he
Yeah.
actually fainted with when the snake was getting
He,
close to him. And
oh,
so
no
that
kidding.
was so when you
Oh
watch
wow.
that scene, like that actually happened. He's not acting. He was
Oh
legitimately like just
wow.
so terrified he actually fainted on set. So
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I never knew that. That's awesome. I didn't know that. I thought like the snake struck at him, and then like he just
Yep.
died instantly. I didn't realize he fainted.
Yep.
Wow.
Actual fainting. Yep.
That's wow. But then it goes right into the wonderful Maurice Bender opening, really different, um, kind of like a fresh take on what a Bond song should be. Similar, very familiar Maurice Bender type stuff with all the sexy ladies, but this time there's the burning skull and there's voodoo imagery, and it's really scary. What do you think about this opening title sequence?
It's so different from the ones before it, right? The Wings
Hmm.
song is so much heavier. Like we
Hmm.
said, like the first legit rock song in the
Hmm.
series, and
Yeah,
the dark imagery of the flaming skulls, the flames with the hands, the like
yeah.
all of it, it fits the movie so well, right? With the theme, like Maurice
Hmm.
really nailed the theme of the movie, I think, with this
Yeah.
intro, and watching it, I watched it a few times this weekend. In in part it
uh,
seems somewhat simplistic compared to some of the stuff he'd done in the past, but I don't think that
yeah,
I think that that was actually appropriate given the subject matter for what it was, right? It didn't
yeah,
need to be some crazy technological thing. It just needed to
yeah,
be scary and intense and memorable, and I think it was all of
yeah,
those as far
yeah,
as an
absolutely.
intro goes. And the other thing
Yeah,
is with the music, and I think with Maurice's intro, we could say that yeah, Diamonds was 71, but we're now
hmm,
officially we are in the 70s now with
yeah,
this intro. Like this is a
yes,
70s defining film right here with
yes,
the
yes,
funk and rock music and the imagery
yeah,
that Maurice uses, the designs
hmm,
and things in this intro. And just let's just say the
hmm,
costume design for the whole film. I mean, this movie is so 70s. It's
yes.
amazing, you know?
Yeah, I love it. I love the 70s. I know a lot of people aren't crazy about the style of the 70s, but and my wife hates it too. Like I always want to get those blazers with the big lapels. Like, so you're
Right?
not wearing that, or I want to get a turtleneck. She goes, no, you're not wearing that. But I just
Right?
love 70s.
Big colorful
Yeah,
leisure
and
suits.
yes, yeah, big cars.
Yeah, the big cars, the
Wow,
giant. Let's
yeah,
just say that this movie has
uh,
the most ostentatious Cadillac that's ever been built is in this
yes.
film. The the white pimp mobile. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Like
yeah,
that
we,
you will never forget this
yeah,
Cadillac. It is so
yeah,
70s.
Whisker. Yeah, yeah, I love it. Yeah, great opening title sequence, great song. All the sexy ladies. This is another one that I paused a lot as a kid. I remember there was the one girl that she was totally naked, but she wasn't a silhouette, but you could see her, and she had like the tribal paint all over
Right.
her.
That was a nod to
Yeah,
National Geographic's of the
yeah.
time, right? Wild safari issues.
Yeah, yeah. And then, okay, I guess we this is a perfect time to transition into the new Bond, and then the title ends with the little hands going into like the prayer motion, and then it sort of transitions into Bond in bed with a lady with a beautiful Italian agent, and we get to see Roger Moore for the first time. Of course, he's with a ladies man. This is the first time we see Roger Moore in any movie. In bed with a girl, and I know I've always loved Roger Moore, but I don't know how I would have taken to him if I had just come off all those Connery movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love him. I love him now, but and of course he'll win you over by the end of this movie, of course. But I don't know. After watching all these Connerys and going to this guy, he's just so different looking. Like
Yeah.
he almost, I know he's older. He's actually older than Sean Connery, but he looks so much younger and he seems like in so much better shape than Sean was in Diamonds.
Right.
And he seems a lot younger and boyish in this, but he's like 45 in this.
He is.
But he
Yep.
just looks he seems so much younger than Sean and kind of boyish. And we get his first scene here with M actually comes to Bond's house. We never really see Bond's house ever, and he kind of seems like clownish and buffoonish, trying to hide the girl. Um, but you see, he still has the wit, and he still has he still has the mind of Bond. Like he knows everything. Um,
He's
like you
got
said, he's my favorite. Yeah,
he's got that watch, right? He's got that Polaris
yeah,
watch right at the beginning
yeah,
with the digital readout, the digital LED display. Roger
yes,
Moore said that
yes,
was the first time that there had been a watch like that on screen and probably the last.
yes. Wow, yeah. That I can't imagine something like that back in the early 70s.
Yep.
Now that I think about it, like I just took that for granted when I was a kid watching that because we had stuff like that in the 80s. But
Oh yeah, digital
yeah,
readouts were
cool.
fairly common, but
Yeah,
back then, 73, that was a an LED
yeah,
digital readout was pretty cool.
yeah. And then so he's trying to hide the girl from M and Moneypenny, but he kind of there is no Q in this movie, but Bond has his little gadgets, and he's kind of taking the part of Q in this, explaining the gadgets, and he has his little silly coffee maker for M.
The cappuccino
So,
machine.
so yeah, the cappuccino machine. Is that all it does?
Which is also funny because the girl he's with is an
Yeah,
Italian agent from the last
yeah.
mission he was
Oh,
on,
right.
missing,
Yeah.
as M said, and M asks him, "You wouldn't happen to know, where she is, right?" And then Moneypenny
So,
comes in to
Miss
distract.
Moneypenny, yeah. Moneypenny being the great girl she is, she sees Miss Caruso go into the closet. Miss Caruso does like the shh motion with her finger to Moneypenny, and Moneypenny doesn't say anything.
Best big
Mhm.
sister ever,
Yes.
Miss
Yeah.
Moneypenny.
Yeah, and we get to, and then I think M delivers the new watch from Q, and this is like the Bond watch. This is the coolest thing
Hmm.
ever. They established it early on that it's a magnet. He turns on the magnet and it takes Bernard Lee's spoon. So this thing has a powerful magnet. It can grab stuff from like 10 feet away,
Right.
like metal objects. And then they never established it till the end, but it has a little buzz saw on it, which is pretty awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, what was this one? Was this a Rolex or Omega? What was that one? And it's
Yep. It's a Rolex
and,
Submariner.
yeah, Submariner. That's the one. Yeah, yeah, cool watch. And he's always wearing it. I guess I notice always when he's sleeping with women, he always has the watch on. I guess that's a normal thing. I don't wear a watch, but I
Yep.
don't know, when you sleep with women, do you wear your watch? I guess I would if I
I
were.
guess I guess James Bond
Yeah,
would, right? He sleeps with a
yeah,
gun under his
yeah,
pillow. He's got the gun under
yeah,
his pillow,
yeah.
so why not, right?
Right, yeah. And the girl he's sleeping with, he takes her out of the closet after he thanks Money Penny, and they both leave. He pulls the Italian agent out of the closet, and and unzips the back of her dress with that with a magnet that zips it down her back. And she says, "Oh, your hands are so soft," or what she say? How do you do it? I don't even feel you. He's all, pure magnetism, darling.
Right.
But I think it was Guy Hamilton or Mankiewicz said, like, I didn't know how they do that, if they had like fishing line or whatever to do that, but they were
Hmm.
saying they had someone grabbing the girl's dress from the front and pulling it so as it
Ah,
would
it looked
just
tighter.
open as,
Yeah.
yeah, so it would the zipper would come undone as they squeezed her dress lower and
Hmm.
lower. But I didn't realize it looked pretty good on film.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, yeah, but Roger, there's so many little subtle differences. Like Tom Mankiewicz was saying, like what's Sean Connery's more physical and he has that face. Like Mankiewicz was saying, like Connery has that face like he's gonna fight,
Right.
but this guy's more of a he's more of a talker. Sean, what do you call him? Roger Moore,
He's more
and
of
he
a
was talking about all the
gentleman spy,
yeah,
right? That's more like Roger
yeah,
Moore.
gentleman spy, yeah, gentleman spy, and there he yeah, and I just it really made sense, like what the little subtle differences when Tom Mankiewicz was talking about this, but how Connery could get away with slapping women, and you go, oh, that's just Sean, just the way he is. Like
Right.
it's not really that terrible. Or when he's aggressive with women, like, oh, that's just Sean.
Right.
But
Right.
like if Roger were to do that, it would look really weird and nasty because he's just like this this nice looking posh guy. I don't.
Yep.
It
Right.
would just seem wrong. And it hit the nail on the head when Tom Mankiewicz was talking about that. That's why I thought it would look terrible when he was beating up on Mud Adams in the next movie.
Oh yeah.
Like if
It's
Sean
scary.
did that, it would be, yeah. If Sean had done that, I'd be like, oh, whatever.
Right. Yeah, with Sean, it was weird if he didn't
Yeah,
hit him. Like it
yeah,
was almost like, did he even care? Like with
yeah,
Roger,
yeah,
it's just like, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And then yeah, but I think when M was there, he laid out the kind of the plot of the movie, and Bond is going to he starts off going to New York to take over this investigation where they've been surveying Kananga, right?
mm-hmm. Yep.
And they've been spying on him, and a lot of agents have been turning up dead. One in New York, one in New Orleans, one in San Monique in the
Right.
Caribbean. So, so he's going to take over for Baines, I guess, but first he's going to go to New York. And this movie is way different from the book. I actually just started listening to the book again last night, and it's been so long since I read it, I forgot a lot about it. But in the book, there's no the drug, the poppy, the heroin field. There's none of that. It's just Mr. Big has got some of one of the pirate or the Captain Bloody Morgan's gold doubloons have been showing up in Harlem, and and uh, and CIA and MI6 are investigating this Mr. Big character who is this big crime boss in like the black world. Like he's the top he's like one of the top gangsters in the world, and he has a lot of power in the black communities, and he uses his voodoo power to like he uses it as a fear tactic, kind of like in the movie. But he is actually Baron Samedi in the book. There is no Baron Samedi. There's no Kananga. We'll get to Kananga later, but Mr. Big is Baron Samedi. Like he plays that role like he's a big. He's connected with Smersh and the communists, and he funds the Smersh. He's like a Smersh agent pretty much, and a big one of the biggest gangsters in the West. In the
Wow.
book, in the movie, he's we don't know they're the same guy at first, but Kananga's a is the leader of the Samanique. And you see Felix there. One of our favorite Felixes. We'll get to him later. David Hedison, but they're scoping him out, and Kananga does this cool thing where he goes into his office and he starts his little spiel, and then he turns on the tape recorder that goes on for like a half hour, and then at this point we see a Solitaire take her clothes off, sexy. Oh my god! And then they change into their other get up, and then they sneak out of there in their Cadillac or their Lincoln with Teehee and all them, and then he goes into his other persona, Mr. Big, like the big gangster of Harlem.
Yep.
Um, but we don't really know what his plot is yet. As far as the drugs go, but we see Felix Leiter there, and we get a cool car chase. And I kind of wanted to talk about this car chase. Felix's guy Charlie picks up Roger at the airport, and that kind of had a Terrence Young type vibe when Bond walking out of the airport, like the first time we see Sean walking out of the airport in From Russia with Love, and in Doctor No, but we see Roger coming out of the airport, and then Charlie picks him up, and then we get a Whisper in his big white pimp mobile following Roger down the freeway. And this was I always thought, man, this is amazing. Of course, I don't know if something like that could happen now, but there's like a big car fiasco going on through traffic on this freeway in New York. Like how can they do this?
Right.
But Whisper drives by. One of the many henchmen in this movie, Whisper drives by, and inside of his rearview mirror, there's a little dart gun, and it shoots Charlie, the driver, in the head. And then Charlie dies, and his foot goes on the gas pedal, and then Roger says, "Easy, Charlie. Let's get there in one piece." Charlie's dead. The car is just out of control on the freeway, and then Whisper drives off, and then it starts playing that cool funky music. I think it even has some of the Bondian uh, bits in there, but Whisper drives off in his big white pimp mobile, and the car is just all out of control, smashing into other cars on the freeway. And I was like, man, how did they do that? Eventually, Bond takes control of it and crashes it safely. But I was like, how are they doing that? I guess Guy Hamilton said the city let them block off like a mile or two of road in that freeway,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a big convoy of cars, like 20 or 50 cars, and that was just part of their convoy, that whole action scene. So they just had their own little convoy go through there, and then the cars could just smash into each other and do whatever they want. But
Yep.
you see the oncoming traffic from the other side. You see behind the barrier. You see, I don't know if they were part of the convoy too, or that was just cars traffic on the other side. But as far as like all the cars you see on the film, that was just part of like a 30 car convoy that the crew had. So I thought it was pretty cool how they did that.
Oh yeah. Any big freeway, scene like that, it's always
Yeah,
impressive, especially at the time
yeah,
back then, to be able to
yeah,
film that so well. My dad did say when we watched it,
yeah.
you'd never see a set of more ugly cars in one place
Oh
to get
yeah.
wrecked than in this scene. He's
Oh,
not
a
he's not
lot
much
of
of a
big
fan
heavy
of
cars. Yeah.
70s American cars.
Yeah, yeah, they're so big and heavy,
Yeah, a bunch of
and
boxes
all
on
their
wheels,
panels are
right?
so heavy. Yeah, it's not like now where like it's just like tin foil now. The panels, I bet, and they were big, huge, thick, like the fenders and the quarter panels and everything were so
Yep.
huge and thick and
Heavy.
yeah, heavy. Yeah, but we talked a little bit about the girls. I mentioned Solitaire briefly, but I think Bond only gets with like three women in this one, which is fine, I guess. But we start off with the Italian agent Miss Caruso, and I think she's played by a girl named Madeline Smith.
Yep.
Um, like a really beautiful, I don't know if she was a model or an actress, but they always get the best, like little minor characters in these movies.
Right.
But any thoughts on Miss Caruso
No,
as we're moving into the girls?
yeah, no, she was great as a Italian agent. Do you know, was her
Yeah.
voice dubbed or was that her real voice in the film?
Oh, I'm not sure. I know Solitaires was Nikki Vanderzil,
Because I
but I
don't.
don't know about. So her,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Solitaire
she's
was dubbed?
English. Yeah, yeah. That was Nikki
Wow.
Vanderzil. That was Honey Rider and Kissy and all those other girls.
Right, right, right. I didn't
Yeah,
have any idea Solitaire was dubbed. I thought that really
yeah,
sounded like Jane Seymour. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Unless it wasn't always her, it could have been
Hmm.
just in certain parts. But I wouldn't know one from the other. And I don't know, that girl Madeline Smith is English, so I don't know if she was dubbed with an Italian accent or she did that. I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I mean, she really just speaks. Does she speak English at all, or is it just Italian at
I
the
don't,
beginning?
I don't, I don't think so. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
think she just speaks Italian.
that's why I was
So it was
thinking
probably just
she could have been dubbed
yeah,
unless that actress spoke
yeah,
Italian.
she was. It was probably just Nikki Vanderzil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to see her in more movies. That girl. uh, um, Miss Caruso. She's not credited everywhere I look. She's not credited as she just credited as beautiful girl.
Mm-hmm.
But they say her name right, Miss Caruso, right? Vim
Yeah,
says her name, right?
M says her name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, but then I guess the other major Bond girl in this, before we get to Solitaire, is Rosie Carver,
Oh,
and she's pretty much played. Sorry.
Before we get to Rosie, let me just say
Yeah,
I looked this up here because I was gonna be shocked if that
yeah,
wasn't Jane Seymour's voice. It does look like
yeah.
Nikki Vanderzil did do some voiceover work for it,
Okay,
but it wasn't
okay,
all
yeah,
Nikki Vanderzil. Some of that is Jane Seymour.
okay, Oh, good, good, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I figured that, like, because she was known for like, or because I think she was already um had been acting, or I don't know. I think this may have been her first movie, but I know she was an actress, so I'm sure she
Yeah,
and she
she
spoke perfect English. She's an English girl.
right, right.
Yeah,
She had been on a
right.
TV show. I forget what it was
Mm-hmm.
called, but she was on a TV show and she met, I think, with the
Mm-hmm.
producers, at least one of them. And when
Mm-hmm.
she met with the producers, all she did was take off her hat and her hair came
Mm-hmm.
down flowing. And he
Yeah.
said like, "Oh, yeah, we want you to be the next Bond girl." Basically like no audition, nothing. It was just she,
Yeah.
as soon as she took her hat off, it was like, they just offered it to her
Yeah.
immediately. I thought
Yeah.
that was so funny. And I also wanted
Yes.
to mention related to that, Jane Seymour was 22 at the time they were filming
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
So she was less than
Yeah.
half of Roger Moore's age when this is
Yes.
just
Yeah.
for, anyone keeping score.
It's even gonna get bigger age gaps like going on later in this series. But
Right. Yep.
yeah, but probably Gloria Hendry couldn't be that much older. We'll talk about Rosie Carver, the bumbling American CIA agent.
Right.
She reminds me a lot of Miss Goodnight from the next movie, but the American version.
Yeah.
but
Right, right.
but at least Goodnight's heart was in the right place. Rosie is as a double agent.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I guess similar to I guess in Vesper Lind. There's been a lot of double agent females,
Mm-hmm.
but Rosie, when we first see her, we have no idea she's a baddie because she's just so incompetent and foolish and cute and silly, innocent. This is probably more of a Guy Hamilton taking jabs at Americans being idiots, or
Right. It probably
but
really is that.
but yeah, but uh, but Rosie, we first see her. She books the room, Mister and Mrs. Bond, Mrs. Bond. But she comes into with Bond's room. She thinks she knows Whisper was one of Mr. Big's agents, and he was in there bringing the champagne. So she comes in with a gun. Bond doesn't know it's her, and then he flips her on the bed. She's wearing a wig, but
Yep.
the wig falls off, and then Mrs. Bond, I presume. And Rosie's nothing but a bumbling, incompetent agent, kind of like Miss Goodnight,
Yep.
but cute as ever. I love that actress Gloria Hendry. I would see her in a lot of those black exploitation movies, like with Fred Williamson,
Yep.
and she was in Black Belt Jones with Jim Kelly. But she is so hot. She has such a good body and such a pretty face. Um,
And
but it's
before
kind of funny
this,
too. Yeah,
before this,
yeah,
she was in
yeah.
Across 110th Street with Yaphet Kotto as well, Mr. Big.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, they had been in a
yeah,
movie together before this one.
yeah. Wow, yeah. Yeah, I always thought she was a cute, funny, little silly character, but kind of like a tragic ending for
Yeah.
her. But yeah, yeah, CIA agent working for Felix, and of course Bond's happy about that. Like, oh, Bond, Felix sent me a lady, and so he's trying to put the moves on her, but she won't have any of it at first. And then she goes into the room and sees the voodoo sign in there, the little hat, the little voodoo hat with the chicken feather and the blood.
Owned by
And she
a
screams,
man with a very small head who lost a fight with a chicken.
"Oh, that's the funniest!" Oh, it's just a hat, darling. Owned by a very small man who lost a fight with a chicken. And then she's freaked out. So she freaks out. Oh, don't leave tonight, James.
Right, right. And then immediately after that, I was thinking to myself,
Yeah,
did Bond put that in the
yeah,
room? Like, just as
yeah,
insurance?
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. And then she went in there and saw the snake.
Right?
There's a snake. There's a snake. And he says, "Oh yes, a snake. You must never go in there without a mongoose."
Yeah.
but yeah, but that snake, I remember that was kind of a scary scene when I was a kid because I was always really afraid of snakes. But Guy Hamilton said that was like some like a movie actor snake, like like he said it was the best snake. Like he was, I don't know what he meant by this, but he said the snake took direction very well and it did exactly as it was supposed to. And it went down the back of that shower hose. Like
Okay, yeah.
yeah. But that snake, I don't even want to know what that was. It's probably one of those fake snakes that they burned up.
Yeah, I thought it was rubber, or that I had read
Yeah.
somewhere that it was actually a fake
Okay.
snake, which if that's the
Yeah.
case, that was incredible, right? Because you see the snake's
Yeah.
tongue, you see how it
Yeah.
it moves so well, like the way they filmed it. It
Yeah.
totally looks real. Uh,
Yeah.
so either way, it
The
was either a
one.
great actor or a really great piece of rubber,
Yeah.
one of the two. So
Yeah. But but that was one of those cool little Bond improv moments I liked where he's shaving and he looks in his mirror and he has his shaving cream on and he has his cigar. He's always smoking a cigar. I love it. Roger's always smoking a cigar in this movie, but he sees in his mirror that snake sneaking up on him, and then he turns around with was it the aftershave
I
or
think it
the
was
can
aftershave, right? Because
yeah and
he hits his cheeks with
yeah.
it a few times after he barbecues the
Yeah,
snake, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. But he puts the aftershave to the cigar, gets a flame, and he turns his aftershave into a flamethrower and kills the snake. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was a pretty badass scene, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
not saying I'm not saying Connery wouldn't have done it, but it just seems like
yeah.
something that wouldn't have even happened to Connery.
I know.
So,
He would have like
yeah.
he would have gotten his shoe and killed the snake with his shoe to the music.
Right? Like this
Like-
the spider in Doctor No, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're kind of off the subject of Rosie, and then poor Rosie allures Bond to a trap in San Monique where Baines was murdered. He's looking for the spot where Baines was murdered, and she takes him there, and of course, and then they make love again. And he says, "Oh, I thought you said Baines was killed over here," and she goes, "Down there." Oh, he says, "Oh yeah, over the mountain and down there. Oh, let's go have some lunch." And then they they go have a picnic and they're making out there. and then he pulls out the tarot card. I guess that's something we could get into. There's a lot of like mysticism in this movie. Tarot cards like tell the future in this movie.
Yep.
But the cards showed what was it, the deceitful woman card. What was it?
Yeah, it's the what was it? The um I feel like it was like the moon or something.
Yeah,
I forget exactly
yeah,
what the card
something
was.
yeah.
But it
What
was
is the
in an
moon and
upside down, right? It was
upside down?
and
Yeah,
that's what meant like a deceitful
yeah.
woman.
Yeah, and I guess Mankiewicz really got into tarot cards for this movie and got into all that and put it. There were no tarot cards in the book, and I guess tarot cards. I never knew this, but tarot cards have nothing to do with the voodoo religion.
Right.
But
Totally different.
I would always just associate it with voodoo because of this movie. But
Right.
from that card he figures he's been catching on to her that she's a double agent, and then he points the gun at her, and I love his line where she said, "You wouldn't kill me, not after what we just done," and he says, "Well, I certainly wouldn't have shot you before."
Right. I love that one. I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of people miss that for how hilarious. Like he just delivers
yeah,
it with this perfect, straight face.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But but then poor Rosie is flipping out. She sees one of the scarecrows, which is like Kananga's like surveillance system, and some of them have guns on them. The scarecrows. He looks up and sees it and flips out. He says, "It was." And Roger says, "It was a convincing act, Rosie, but it's wearing thin." She goes, "It's not an act," and then she runs away all scared. And then one of those traps, those scarecrows shoots poor Rosie in the back, and she dies.
Yeah, with
And I guess
like
it was meant for Bond, but Rosie got yeah
with like a
yeah
silenced pistol round, I guess is, or it's a
yeah
suppressed
yeah
round. Like that was what was really cool about it.
yeah.
Those things are really stealthy.
I don't want to get into necrophilia as Bond kind of alluded to, but she did kind of look sexy laying there dead, and
Yeah, they probably took a few
uh,
minutes,
uh,
arranging her body for the
yeah,
photography there.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, she was posing for a picture.
made sure she left a
Her poor
lasting
thing, her eye,
impression, right?
yeah, yeah, poor thing, like her eyes were still open. Huh?
Yep.
Um,
I do feel bad for Rosie.
but I
Like
guess,
she really, as a
uh,
character,
yeah,
was really unfortunate. She
hmm
died the way she did, obviously, and
yeah,
if Bond had been able to turn her, it would have probably gone a lot better. He would have avoided a lot of the
yeah,
trouble he gets into later.
yeah. I guess you could have said maybe she had to turn a change of heart at the end. Maybe she took the bullet for Bond.
Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, you could say that.
I guess you could look at it like that. Yeah,
Because that's one thing that I was
but
always surprised about with that part of the story was
yeah,
why shoot Rosie? Why not just kill Bond? They knew exactly where he was, you know?
yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
I always just yeah, I don't know why or why didn't the thing just shoot Bond? Unless I was thinking it was like a motion sensor thing, and whoever just ran by that, the first person got shot.
Maybe that's what it
I'm thinking
was.
maybe she led him there because there was like some motion sensor where he'd walk by. I don't know.
Right,
Uh,
right. Now, here's a question for you
but the
though.
overseeing
The tarot
yeah.
card, who left the card on Bond's table?
Yeah, that's a weird one because he went and bought some, but that was afterward, right? Or
Yeah.
did he went and bought some at the tarot shop
And it
to
was
because he
the
wanted to stack to get
Right, he wanted to stack the deck for solitaire, but the Queen of
yeah,
Cups
yeah,
was the card was the Queen of Cups,
yeah,
and
yeah,
uh anyway, I'm just wondering like
yeah. Who did leave
who did
that?
it?
It, yeah, that's a weird little plot hole there. Unless it was just like a supernatural anomaly.
Right?
Yeah,
Because at this point,
yeah, that's
solitaire is not on Bond's side,
yeah, yeah. She's
right?
not on bind and Felix, they would have known. They wouldn't have come at it like that if they would have known the CIA.
Right.
And none of the other voodoo guys, they were all baddies. So why would they warn him? Like Baron Samedi? Yeah. What is that? Unless it was just like fates or the work of God or something supernatural.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point.
Let me Google that real quick. Who sent Bond a note?
In Unless it was no, he would have said something if it was Quarrel.
Right. And Quarrel didn't know Rosie yet, as far as we know.
Yeah,
Okay, here we
yeah,
go. According to
yeah.
Bond, Queen of Cups in the upside down position means deceitful, perverse woman, a liar, or a cheat.
hmm
Supplied to
hmm
007 by fortune teller Solitaire. It helps him determine that Rosie is not a CIA operative at all, but an agent of the drug smuggler Kananga. So
Oh,
they are
so
claiming that
so
was
so
Solitaire here.
wow. So Solitaire was trying to tell him, give him warnings, huh?
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, this is after he pulled out the lover card. So maybe she
Right.
is down with Bond at this point.
Yeah, well, that's what's interesting about it though, because at first she
Yeah,
seemed so scared, right, about that. It
yeah,
wasn't like something she was happy about, but you know,
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah. I
interesting.
guess it would have been Solitaire. Yeah. But
Wow.
but speaking of solitaire, though, we'll move on to her. And she had been foreseeing this whole thing, like really different Bond girl from anyone else, kind of similar to Domino, where she's like a kept woman, like this
Yep.
evil baddie is looking after her, and And I bet Kananga, bless his heart, really wants to hit that, but he can't. Like, yeah, that's a lot of that shows how well he puts his priorities,
Right.
Kananga. Yeah, because he has this beautiful, beautiful woman around him all the time, but he can't hit it because she'll lose her power. That's like the most like sci-fi or supernatural thing in a Bond movie. This girl has psychic powers with the tarot cards, and if she loses her virginity, she'll lose it. Um,
The sight. Yeah.
and she, yeah, yeah, and she uses it a lot. Like she knows if Bond's armed or not. She knows how if he's flying in from plane or by boat. Like her tarot cards actually are very accurate in this. So it is almost like a sci-fi or supernatural element in this movie. We'll get to Baron Samedi later,
Well, let's talk
but yeah,
about
super.
that though. The when
Yeah,
the first your first introduction to solitaire, she's flipping cards
yeah,
onto a table. You don't even see her, and you just hear her
yeah,
talking about Bond, coming and
yeah,
being a problem, bringing a
yeah,
lot of death and destruction, and
yeah,
it's such a cool scene though because she's flipping the cards on the table, and then the table turns into a scene of his airplane, flying
yeah,
across the Atlantic,
yeah,
coming to New York,
yeah,
and it's just that's a simple thing now, but
yeah,
in 1973 that was a very cool
yeah,
transition editing
yeah.
effect.
It was like a really slow transition where it was like overlaid, right?
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. And it played that cool music. Like I really wonder what John Barry would have done, but it has that cool funky like Bond theme.
Yep.
It always has that little it's kind of a play on the Bond theme, but it's different. It's like ding 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 ding. I always like that little tune.
Right. It's definitely
Yeah,
more
but
funky and
yeah,
appropriate. Also,
yeah,
the funk music, it makes perfect sense they would use it,
yeah,
being New York City in the early
yeah,
70s, right? I'm sure funk
yeah,
music must have been really big at that
yeah,
point, or getting really big in that part of the
yeah.
country, the part of that part of the world.
Getting back to Solitaire though, so she's Mr. Big's slash Kananga's like spiritual advisor or like fortune teller, and I guess she doubles as his secretary when he's the diplomat. But well, man, what a hottie! I think she was like always was my favorite for many years, just as far as looks go. Jade
Yeah.
Seymour. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh. And just all the sexy outfits she would wear. Like some of them are really bizarre, but like classy and revealing, always showing wonderful cleavage in this.
Her
Um,
her outfits in the Stranger ones, they're kind of like a
mhm.
cooler, sexier Queen Amidala, you know?
Yeah, 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 it reminds me of that. Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. I never thought of that, but you're right. Yeah, and she has her little chair she sits in with like the coat is like built into it and it covers her up. the
Right.
That's pretty cool. Roger is sitting in it at one point.
Dealing cards, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, and I remember at the end I was really scared for the when Dumbala had the snake and he's about to. You don't know if he's gonna have the snake bite her or not, and Bond's waiting for the timer to go down for the heroin to blow the heroin farm to blow up.
Yep.
But Well, that was scary. And then they're carrying her around and they tie her up. I remember that was
Hmm.
scary.
Well, she screams so
Yeah,
loud when they take her out of the
yeah,
church, or right at the
yeah,
beginning, and all of it. Like that whole scene is shot so well. I feel like it really feels like
yeah,
you're there.
yeah. And you can tell there's a lot of fear, like she's escaped Kananga, but she's like, he'll find me wherever I go. Like he has that much power. When they're escaping on the boat, he's, oh, don't worry, darling. I'll just hand this over to Felix and we'll be on our way. So no, she'll find me, whatever. Kind of reminded me of in the novel Casino Royale, how like Vesper in her last letter to Bond talking about how they would always find her no matter the Smurfs would always find her no matter where she went. Kind of
Yep.
reminded me of that.
Hmm. Yeah, she had
She was all
genuine terror,
but
right, with Kananga's
yeah.
she knew how extensive his network was.
I think in the commentary, Jane Seymour was talking. Remember that one scene when they captured Bond? The cab driver captured them in New Orleans, and they brought them to that little airport, and they're with one of the major goons. Adam there says, "You made a mistake, Bond. You took something that's for Mister that doesn't belong to you. It's a property, and Mister Big wants it back." And we're gonna take you for a little skydiving or whatever.
No, 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 no.
And then
That's
Solitaire
what
says,
the cab
"Yeah,
driver said, right? Uh, Today's your
oh
lucky
yeah, so we're
day,
going for a little
Jim.
skydive.
You going
Yeah, today's
skydiving.
lucky day. That's good. Yeah, yeah, go skydiving. Yeah, I love that guy, the
Yeah,
sideburn guy. But the other guy says something like I forgot what he says, but talking about they're gonna kill him. And then Solitaire says, "My only regret," because as far as they know, like he just captured her, so she kind of played it off well,
right.
where she goes, "My only regret is that I won't be there to see it," and she goes to hit Bond with the purse, but then he blocks it, and that's a distraction for him to beat them up and run away.
Yep.
So she played it well, where she looks like she's still on their side,
So,
but then later,
fun fact about that fight, Roger Moore
yeah,
in his commentary talked about filming that, and he said that around this time, and I think even coming into the movie before the movie, he'd been having issues with kidney stones. And
oh wow,
so, yeah, he was having renal problems. And the day that
uh,
they had to film this, he
yeah,
apparently got just horrible kidney pain and was
oh no,
kind of bowled over in his Winnebago or his trailer or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
They were about to start shooting and he had to go to the hospital. Like, right.
oh no,
Yeah,
oh
it was
man,
really bad apparently. And
like
he
yeah,
so he was in a lot of pain even I think when they actually did the shooting for that
oh
still.
wow,
Groin
I
pain
didn't know it.
and the back pain,
Oh
from the
no, that's
kidneys. So,
oh that'd be
yeah.
one of my worst nightmares having that.
Right. Well, and he's got to
Yeah,
do this fighting. He's got to roll under the
yeah,
plane. Just imagine having to do all
yeah.
that stuff, all that
Oh
action
yeah,
in a ton of pain
yeah,
like that. Is really
yeah,
listening to that made me think like, wow, this movie is even more impressive with
yeah,
that, you know, sort of thing that he
yeah,
was dealing with at the time.
yeah. I know a lot of this. You hear a lot. Roger doesn't do a lot of his stunts, which is kind of necessary. Like
Right.
actors really shouldn't do their stunts because they'll get hurt. But I did notice he did do a lot of stunts. Like I never noticed. I saw it on the HD this time. I noticed he did a lot of stuff I didn't expect him to do. Like he did like the drop kick thing to the guys outside of the Mr. Big's club.
Yep.
And he did a lot of the boat racing was him. Like, oh, that's Roger Moore in there when he's zooming around on the boat.
Did you hear about his first day though when they were doing the boat? I mean, I think this was the
No,
first day of filming.
no, yeah,
This was before they were doing rehearsals and they were going to
yeah,
start shooting the boat chase the next day.
hmm,
But while he was
yeah,
rehearsing the boat chase, he apparently like just something went wrong and he got
hmm.
thrown forward in the boat,
Oh,
hit his mouth on the windshield of his boat, flew
yeah,
back and almost broke his leg. I think
uh,
when he wrecked this boat. And
yeah,
the doctor, they went to the hospital, I guess. The doctor said he narrowly missed breaking his leg. It was very close. He was about to,
oh
or
wow,
his knee, I think, was about to be broken.
hmm,
And fortunately, he thought that maybe the roots of his front teeth were all going to be dead from that impact, but that he
yeah,
was okay. That didn't happen. But he was,
oh
in a
good,
lot of
yeah,
pain, obviously.
yeah.
And so, but for filming the boat chase sequence, apparently he was walking on a cane the whole time they were filming that.
Oh,
Just
no kidding, wow.
trying to get over it. And they could still do the filming because, he didn't have to move anywhere. He could just be in the boat. But
Yeah.
his knee was apparently really messed up while they were filming those sequences.
Wow, and that was the beginning of filming?
I think so,
Or
yeah. I think
oh
that
wow.
was the start of it. So,
Wow.
imagine you got to film the probably the most dangerous part of the movie is the first thing you're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. Wow, what a cool scene. But yeah, what was it? Oh, getting back to Solitaire though, the thing I was going to bring up about the purse was in the commentary. Jane Seymour was saying, I guess when she was in New York or some American town filming that, she almost got mugged, and she said, "Oh, I just thought of on the movie when I hit Bond with my purse." So I threw my purse at the guy, and then I got away. or I hit him with my purse.
Right.
Uh,
So did she put a brick in her purse to hit Roger with it? Like, is that?
yeah, maybe that's really how he got his teeth knocked out,
Right.
or almost got his teeth. Yeah,
Well, apparently he
great
was
stuff.
quite the practical joker on set, so there were probably a few people
Yeah,
that would have liked to have seen that.
yeah, that's what I hear. Yeah, I hear that guy's like witty and always joking around. That's kind of one of the reasons I like him so much.
Yep, yep.
But yeah. So anything else about Solitaire? You want to move on to some of his other friends and allies?
Yeah, I think we could talk about Solitaire all day if we don't force ourselves to move on.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of those. Oh, okay. I don't want to talk about it. I'm gonna be a perv, but all the stuff she wears, I really. Okay, we'll move on to.
She had
I
very good
guess there is
costume
another
design.
female in here.
Let's just say that.
Yes,
Like,
yes, yeah. No, I agree. Well, I guess we'll move on. There is one other female. We got to talk about Mrs. Bell.
oh, that's right. That's right.
Right there when.
How could we forget Mrs.
Yeah.
Bell?
Oh, I got another one of these little characters that's just in it for like 2 seconds, but so memorable.
Yep.
Right there when Bond escapes at that airport, we have another action scene. Like, people don't talk about this one too much, but there's a little plane chase on ground, like a little airport. Mrs. Bell's about to get her flying instructions from Bleeker, Mr. Bleeker's flight school. And Roger runs away from the goons, and he jumps in that plane to get away. And he sees there's this little old lady in there with those big glasses on and the aviator hat. and he says, She says, "Who are you?" "I'm Miss Bell. Where's Mr. Bleeker?" He says, "Indisposed at the moment. I'll be giving you the lesson today." So we have this little chase scene where he's in this little airplane flying around the airport, running away from all these big cars. All the cars are smashing into all the airplanes, destroying all these airplanes. I'm sure they're probably just old junk airplanes, but a lot of cars are destroying a lot of airplanes at this airport.
Right.
What do you? Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's great, right? I mean, that whole sequence,
Yeah.
it's one of the
Yeah.
funniest chases in the whole thing. It's so cool. This movie has one of the funniest chases and one of the best chases in the whole series. They're not the same chase,
Yeah.
but still,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean, just as funny
Yeah.
as the boat chase is because of JW,
Yeah.
like this was hilarious to watch, right? Like Bond just pretending to
Yeah.
be a flight instructor, all these goons trying to kill him at the airport with all their guns, and so he's just chasing them all around in this little plane that never gets off the ground.
And then it does the kind of like a foreshadowing, a little bit kind of similar to Octopussy when he's trying to go through the hangar and everyone's trying to shut the doors, but then it takes off the two wings.
Yeah, that's great.
The doors take off the two wings, so he's just running around with no wings.
Well, I watched that sequence a few times, and it looked dicey. I don't know if you saw it, but the guys that were closing the door, they really had to get out of the way from those wings falling off.
Yeah,
like that looked
I didn't
really
think about
dangerous
that.
to film.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I never thought about that. That is a dangerous thing. And we get to hear the S bomb drop the first time in a Bond movie from Mrs. Bell.
That's right.
It's so funny. Like when he's going through the doors are closing and the plane squeezing through there, you just see a close up of Mrs. Bell. Holy shit.
She's just stunned this whole time. Like she's like so tense, doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. And then so he disposes of all the other goons, and then he gets out of the plane. Mrs. Bell's just staring at him. He says, "Same time tomorrow, Mrs. Bell." and then and then we go straight to Felix, and I think this is your favorite, Felix.
Oh yeah.
They're talking to Mr. Bleecker at the flight school. Now, no, of course not, Mr. Bleecker. I know you can't just glue the wings back on. I know she's one of your star pupils. And then Bond's there. Oh, how is Mrs. Bleecker, or how is Mrs. Bell? And then Felix takes covers the phone with his hand. Intensive care, but she's pulling through. But
And then he goes back to the call, right? And he says, "Oh, no one's questioning your patriotism, sir. I'm sure you're a veteran." Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I love. He's not in it too much, but I love David Hedison in this. We get to see him go to the club with Bond at one point, which is in the book a lot. Felix and Bond go check out all the clubs when they're scoping out Mr. Big.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like a little nod to the books. Every time he goes to one of Mr. Big's restaurants, he always either the table goes into the wall and they capture him, or the table goes under the floor and they capture him.
Yep.
But yeah, but like anything else on Felix or?
Yeah, well, like you said, he's great in this. Their dynamic is really interesting too, because most of their dialogue together is over the phone. So Bond is constantly calling him and talking to him over the phone. After he's saved by Strutter in the alley, he talks to him through the lighter, the genuine Felix lighter in the car that's actually a microphone. And you know, which is super fun. And I like David so much as Felix, and like you said, he comes back in License to Kill, and he's great in License to Kill as well. 15 years, I think, right, between the two appearances.
I like how he reprised his role. That kind of made it hit harder when he got chomped on by a shark.
Yeah,
because we already knew him from. Yeah, that's another thing in the novel Live and Let Die. Felix gets chomped on by the shark, and he leaves the message. Mr. Biggs leaves that note to something he ate disagreed with him.
Wow.
So that's right out of the book. They used it in Live and Let Die, or they used it in License to Kill, but it was actually from Live and Let Die. So it's kind of crazy how he avoided it in this movie. David Hedison, like they didn't write it into the movie. But
it could have been
up getting chomped.
Yeah, you know, like that totally could have been in this movie, because I mean, even Kananga has the sharks, right?
Yeah.
So
he does that. Oh, this has everything. It has sharks, it has crocodiles, it has alligators, it has snakes.
Yep.
This movie has everything. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, but
it makes sense too that they would reuse that in License to Kill, right? Because that's another one about just a big drug lord, as the plot. So with cocaine instead of heroin, but it's still similar plot.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, what was that? That was another fictitious country in that movie. It was called Isthmus.
Was it? Yeah.
Was that in the Caribbean, or was that more like? Yeah, I guess it was over there by like Cuba or something.
It was South America, right? Wasn't it in South America?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That was So cool to see him come back, and then I guess we had the other CIA guy, Strutter, who was in there briefly, and he was pretty cool. I guess you could have just had one or the other. It was cool that they had two different CIA guys, but they had the Strutter there following him around in Harlem.
Yeah, and let's be honest about this. Felix was not going into Harlem in 1973.
No.
So
that
was not going to happen.
No, I forgot to mention with Bond, that's one of the things I like about Bond, like being out of his element, but being really cool and smooth. Like when he walked into that bar, like he kind of looks like a clown little white boy in there. but like he's just like strutting around like it doesn't bother him at all. And it's always like Bond, like he's just comfortable in every situation.
Right.
But what do you call it? Yeah, but but Strutter was there. Yeah, yeah. Nice disguise, Bond, a white face in Harlem.
Oh
But
man.
yeah, but then Strutter ends up getting it the same way that Hamilton got it. We don't see him die, but he gets taken out by a little knife guy.
Right.
Yeah, and then like, where's Strutter? Is he laying down on the job or something?
Well, and as you said when we were doing the best of series, I think we don't actually
Mm-hmm.
see Strutter die, but
Yeah,
the implication is definitely there.
yeah, yeah. And then I guess before we get to JW, we got Quarrel Jr. Quarrel comes back, not the same Quarrel, but like I said, Live and Let Die was written before Doctor No, so Quarrel hadn't died yet.
Yep.
So Quarrel was in Live and Let Die, but they changed it to Quarrel Jr. So I don't know, maybe this is his son or his nephew or something. But
Right.
we get Quarrel Jr. He was pretty funny. Man, this guy he actually has like an accent, like
Mm-hmm.
Coral. The original just to me just sounded like I love Coral, the original. He's one of my favorites, but he just had that like American accent. But this
Yep.
guy, he has an accent. He seems like a proper Caribbean guy,
Yeah, it
but
sounds
he's
like he's
pretty
actually
funny. I
from
love,
there.
yeah, I love Coral and his little interaction with Rosie when Rosie doesn't know that he's an agent. On their side, and she finds his gun in a secret room down there, and she comes out with a gun and points it at Coral. Hands up, don't move. And then Roger says, "Like I said, Coral, terrible agent, but the compensations speak for themselves."
Right.
Yeah, and Coral ends up being the one with his little red mines, planting all the bombs and blowing up the opium field, huh?
Yep. He actually plants the mines while Bond is going to save
Yeah,
Solitaire at the end.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so cool. It's cool that we got some form of Coral back, and he doesn't die. So I guess this Coral got out of it good because he would have ended up dying in Doctor No.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true. Felix got to keep his legs for another 15 years.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he did have Sharky later on, but he was more of an American guy.
Right.
He was kind of like a Coral type character
Mm-hmm.
in a License to Kill.
That's right.
Anyway, okay, but but we'll get on to our favorite little comic relief in this movie, J.W. Pepper
Oh yeah.
from Louisiana. What do you think of J.W.? The
Louisiana's finest, right? That's yeah. In one
yeah,
car. Yeah, the just
yeah,
every moment this man is on the screen is hilarious. Like
yeah,
there is not
yeah,
a moment with this character that is not just so funny. He perfectly
yeah,
captured the all of the stereotypes you would have about southern redneck police officers and
yeah,
just from the beginning of it. I mean, he's trying to intimidate the one of Mr. Big's henchmen right away, right? Because
yeah,
he picks him
yeah.
up, clocks him doing what was he called in?
Ni-
It said
95 or
yeah,
we got a
doing
regular bid here. Yeah.
doing 95 minimum.
You need any backup, JW?
Hell no.
You just picked the wrong bayou to haul ass, boy. Spin around, boy.
I'm
Yeah.
betting this ain't your debut at this sort of thing.
And then this kind of kicks off that wonderful boat scene. J, JW, this kind of kicks off that big boat chase when he's sitting there with that henchman Adam there. He's spinning him around, 5 fingers or 10 fingers on the car, boy, and then um as they hear these two boats, there's the road is kind of like a peninsula that's between two bodies of water, or is
Yeah.
and he sees these boats coming, and he looks, and then he's like, what the fuck? And then like the bondsman jumps over the freaking road like a ramp.
Yep.
And I guess this movie broke some of the boat jump world records. Like it was in the Guinness Book of World Records for boat jumps.
Yep. 150 feet, I think, wasn't it?
Oh
One of
my
them?
gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
But
crazy.
Bond's boat flies over the road and lands on the other side in the water, and then the henchman's boat it doesn't quite make it, and it smashes right into JW's police car, and then the goon flies out of it and lands in the water, and he swims away, and
Yep.
then the other goon Adam gets back in the car and drives away, and then JW's like, what the hell? And then all you see is the boat smashed into the car. It's just like one big massive bunch of carnage.
Yep.
And then you just hear on the radio from inside the car, JW, if you want to go down to Miss So and So's house and shoot her dog,
Yeah. Her dog is foaming at the mouth, and she's got it locked in a shed, wondering if you'd like to come out there and shoot it.
And then the other two cops pull up and they go, what's that, a boat or a car? Oh, that's one of those new car boats.
Boy, where you been all your life? That's one of them new car boats.
Yeah, there you go. And then so we get this wonderful chase scene on boats where the boats are all of Mr. Big's goons are chasing Bond throughout the bayou. They go into the Irish bayou, and the Bond and the goons are in the water, but then on the road the cops are trying to figure out what's going on, racing around trying to get the boats. And then JW mentions his brother-in-law Billy Bob. You call my brother-in-law Billy Bob? He has the fastest boat in the whole bayou.
Yeah, call Billy Bob.
Yeah, and then we see Billy Bob there cleaning his boat, and then here comes Adam up, and he says, and Billy Bob says, something I could help you with, boy? He says, yes, I'd like to borrow this boat if I may. Everyone on the whole river would like to borrow this boat, boy. And then he hits him on the head with his gun, and it takes off. And then you hear it just as you hear Sheriff ZW radioing Billy Bob to go get these guys on the boat. But that line right there, I always use that line at work or whatever. If I need something, I always say that I'd like to borrow this paper I'd like to borrow this stapler if I may. I just from this movie, I always like that.
I bet nobody picks up on it either.
No, nobody. No, so I can say that all I want. I don't sound like a buffoon.
Right.
I'd like to borrow. But then he gets on Billy Bob's badass. It's like a jet boat, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's
and then Bond,
very fast
and
boat.
then Bond. I think Bond steals a jet boat from that house where the goons end up inside the swimming pool.
Yep.
Bond goes and jacks their boat, and that's like a badass like jet boat too. So there's like two jet boats. They're passing up all the other boats, and it ends up in that cool climax. It's pretty brutal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta mention the part where the Adam's coming around the corner in Billy Bob's boat.
Yeah.
This black henchman, right?
Yeah.
And Billy Bob's freaking out with all the others like pointing it out, saying like to the other cops, like, hey, that's my brother-in-law. That's Billy Bob. If Billy Bob will get him. And he turns around so he doesn't see Adam, and he says, as the guy's going by in the boat, the two cops are looking at him like stunned because he's black, right? and
Yeah.
like this guy can't be related to you, Sheriff, you know,
And then
and then
he
Billy
turns around,
Bob's, yeah, go ahead.
or then JW turns around and says, "If one side of the family don't get him, the other will."
Yep.
And
Let's
then the two
go.
other cops just kind of, let's go. And the two other cops just, they kind of look at each other.
Right?
Are you
So
sure that's
confused.
your brother-in-law?
uh,
Yeah. Oh man, so funny.
it's hilarious.
Yeah. And I guess he must have gone over really well, old Sheriff JW, because they brought him back in the next movie.
Yep.
And I didn't know that when I was a kid because I saw the man with the golden gun before this. So I just thought,
Right.
he's just some American tourist. And I
Me
didn't really
too.
understand it. No, I just thought it was like a fourth wall breaking thing. Like, I secret agent. Kind of like, oh my God, you killed James Bond. I just thought it was something like that.
Right.
But he was hilarious in that movie too. But then when I saw this movie, I go, "Oh yeah, there's J.W. Pepper." This movie, so I geeked out when I first saw it. Yeah,
Oh, and fun fact about
yeah,
JW too, he's played by Clifton
yeah,
James, the actor Clifton
yeah.
James, who is a British actor and or was a British actor. So the fact that this guy could
Wow.
do the Southern accent, the American Southern accent so well is just amazing.
Yeah, I remember he had a little. I saw him. You always would see him typecast after this. I saw him in a Superman 3, I think, or no, Superman 2 or 3. He was a cop.
Mm-hmm.
And then have you ever Silver Streak? You got to watch that with Richard Pryor
Oh
and
yeah,
Gene
I love
Wilder.
I love Silver Streak. He was in that too?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, he was like a bumbling buffoon like sheriff in that.
I forgot that. I'm gonna have to watch that again.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great. Yeah, it's been a
yeah.
long
So
time
him
since
and
I've seen
Richard.
that one.
Yeah, so that movie had J.W. Pepper in it, pretty much playing J.W. Pepper, and it had Richard Kill in it, pretty much playing Jaws.
Okay, it looks like
Yeah.
I was wrong about this actually. I double checked. He was actually American. He was born in
Okay.
Spokane,
Okay.
Washington.
Oh, Spokane, Washington.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I heard him on the commentary and I couldn't quite place his accent.
Still impressive though, right? Because he would not have
Yeah,
had
yeah,
a Southern accent at all.
yeah,
Like he had to develop that for
yeah.
these roles.
So I think we covered most of the good guys in this, and this might take a while. There's so many good villains in this. Like I said, this is like the best lineup of villains I think up to this point.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're all black. Yeah, they're all black guys too, which I think was like a point of contention. Like they were worried about all the bad guys being black guys.
Right.
But I think they made up for it for these guys being like the coolest, like suavest, like well, kind of like likable bad guys up
Yeah.
to this point.
No,
Um,
definitely.
but but man, there's so many of them. Like I said, right down to like there's that little knife guy that comes up and stabs people.
Yep.
There's the Dumbala, the snake guy, who is really scary guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's and then like I said, there's even like little parts like the cab driver. Hey, happening, man? Yeah. For 20 bucks, I'll take you to a Ku Klux Klan cookout.
Right. Hey,
Uh,
$20 in 1973 was
yeah.
a lot of
Oh yeah,
money.
that would have been
So,
that probably been like $200, huh?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe more, huh?
Yeah, maybe more.
But yeah, and then like Whisper too, like very memorable. Like he didn't really do much, but just the big chubby guy that would just whisper,
Yep.
"Your champagne, sir. Shall I open it?" He killed Charlie.
Yep.
And then like I said, even Adam, who like he's mentioned his name one time, but he's like one of the most badass villains. Like he's kind of cool and suave himself with his jacket, and he's I like that line. I'd like to borrow this boat if I may. And Bond's heading into the bayou. Listen up, you mothers. Get Bond's heading to the bayou. The one who catches him stays alive. Now move. But I always liked that guy. And then he got acid or some kind of chemicals in the face, and he blew up in the end of it.
Right. He also got that awesome
Yeah,
death, right? That was such a cool death.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Yeah. And then I guess there are like three biggies. Like, let's talk about Teehee right now before we talk about Baron Samedi. Teehee in this, like he's like one of my favorite henchmen, and he's like more than a henchman. He could be like the main villain. He's almost like a sub main villain.
Right.
Um, I just always this guy's awesome. I love that actor Julius Harris too. From I remember he was in like Black Caesar and Hell Up in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've seen him in many other. Oh, he was in. Actually, he was in what's it? Friday Foster with Pam Grier and Yaphet Kotto was in that too.
Well, and Gloria
Um.
Gloria Hetty was in Hell in Harlem, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Too.
yeah, yeah. She was in Hell in Harlem too. Yeah, yes, yeah. So both of them were in that. Yeah, but I really love T. He's always like so. He's always giggling and laughing, and he has this hook hand, which is always like the Bond villains. Mr. Big doesn't so much have one in this, but it seems like most of the time villains have some kind of abnormality.
Right.
Like ever since the Fleming novels, there's always some weird physical trait to the villains, and he has this quick hand, and they establish it early on where he grabs the Walther and bends it in half.
Well, and Julius is such a
With
big
his
guy
claw
too,
hand.
right? Like he's like
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
kind of like Jaws before Jaws. He's just this really tall
yeah,
dude, very
yeah,
big guy.
yeah. Yeah, that's why I always get the Jaws vibes from him too. Like he even has like the same type of jack or coat. Like the blue jacket that Jaws has. He has like a red version of that,
Right.
and he has the alligator farm, and he seems like he's like the alligator trainer. Like he's the one that owns that farm.
Yep.
And he has this weird farm with the alligators. So he's pretty much like the guy, what the real guy in real life, Kananga has this alligator farm. Was it in Jamaica?
Yeah, Jamaica. His dad owned the farm
Yeah,
before him, and
yeah,
this was so crazy that he
yeah,
saw his dad die, get killed by one of the
hmm
alligators at the
yeah,
farm,
yeah,
and it was
yeah,
I can't remember how old he was when that happened, but he still took over the
yeah,
family business and kept running it,
yeah,
and it's still
yeah,
it's a place you can go to this day, actually, I believe, or at least when
yeah,
Roger Moore did
yeah. You can still,
his
yeah,
commentary.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I watched. I think the guys from James Bond Radio or David Zaritsky, one of those guys, was there recently.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
and just for the viewers, not to be confused with Kananga, the bad guy in this, the guy that ran the alligator farm's name was Ross Kananga,
Yep.
and they actually named Mr. Big's character after this guy because they helped them out so much with this
Mm,
production. They originally going to have they were looking for scouting out locations, and they found this really weird, bizarre alligator farm, or crocodile farm. Actually, I think there was one alligator there, but
right, right.
a crocodile farm this guy owned. So they wanted to use it as a location where a Bond could have an escape scene from this location. And this guy Kananga is the one who ran over the crocodiles in that stunt where the Bond runs over real crocodiles. It was actually Kananga, the man that ran the farm, ran over the crocodiles.
Right. And
Yeah,
what a cool name too, Kananga. It
yeah,
worked perfectly for
yeah,
the character.
yeah, yeah. It almost sounds like Scaramanga. It sounds like
Right?
a Bond villain name.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah. We got right after. Yeah. So they named Mr. Big's alter ego after Kananga here. And a weird thing in the commentary, I forget if it was Mankiewicz was saying, I guess like he didn't want like poachers coming in and killing the alligators, so he bought a lion.
No, you're right.
He bought a lion to chase away the poachers. And I guess the lion got a hold of Kananga and like cut his chest, like put a big claw mark on his chest. And
Ooh.
so when they first got there, he had like a big claw mark on his chest from a lion. There's
Wow.
got to be one of those. there should be a movie about Kananga, like how weird, like
Right.
this guy, his dad got eaten by a crocodile, and he has this crocodile farm with a lion protect.
Well, and then I believe the
Yeah,
crocodiles killed the lion, right?
yeah.
Didn't they? The crocs got the lion
Oh,
eventually.
oh yeah, maybe,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that's what Roger said in the or one of the
yeah,
documentaries I watched talked about that. So that's how dangerous
yeah,
crocodiles are, by the way. Like
yeah,
they,
yes.
they took down a lion.
Wow, yeah, that's
uh,
crazy. And I guess Guy Hamilton was there saying that he wanted to film on the island and the bridge there, and Kananga said, "No, you're not going to film on that, like with the alligators and the crocodiles. They'll eat anyone. You can't have people out there filming."
right.
And then Guy Hamilton was saying, "Oh, what are you talking about? I saw you call that alligator up and you were petting it, and it came up to you and you were feeding it and petting it. What do you mean the alligators the crocodiles are dangerous?" but But that's crazy how he could just like play around with those alligators and let them tie their hands up so he can run over them.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh wow,
but
that was amazing the stunt he did, right?
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
Roger talked about that how he had the idea of, oh, I'll wear crocodile shoes for the scene, right? So
yeah,
Roger went out there with
yeah.
crocodile shoes, dress
Oh
shoes,
yeah,
crocodile skin,
yeah,
and it wasn't
yeah,
like they didn't think the Crocs were going to be so drawn to Roger, but they absolutely
yeah,
were. They were like coming out of the water trying to get closer to him and stuff
yeah.
because of the skin on his shoes. Like,
Oh wow, yeah,
and so they realized like, oh, or he realized
yeah,
after the fact like, oh, maybe it was a long lost cousin or something. Like they recognized like this was not the best idea.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That reminds me of that line he said when he first shows him the baby crocodiles. He's a cute little nippers, ain't they? And Roger says, "I don't suppose those potential future luggage bags have parents, do they?"
Right. No chance they're orphans,
And
are there? Is there?
yeah, yeah, I don't, yeah, I don't. Any chance their armors is no, we got their parents too, and thousands of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh, that's a yeah,
15,000, right? Wasn't it 15,000
wow.
crocodiles at this farm?
Yeah.
This is
Wow.
incredible,
And I guess they had to clear them all out to another area when they've had Roger and the actors there.
right?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because then
then
they used a lot
what?
of rubber ones, right? They had rubber
Yeah.
Crocs for some of the
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah. Rubber cracks. Yeah.
But getting back to that stunt where, Bond runs across the crocodiles to get back to the mainland
Yeah.
off the island that
Yeah.
Ross Kananga did the scene, they had to do 5 takes of
Yeah.
that scene.
Wow.
Did you hear
Yeah.
about this? This was insane. They did 5 takes of
Yeah.
this
Yeah. No.
scene,
Yeah.
and each time the crocodiles were starting to anticipate Ross a little bit more. They would
So they had
move
they had their mouths
before.
open. Yeah.
Yeah, they were opening
Yeah.
their mouths thinking trying to
Yeah.
catch him before he even
Yeah.
hit them. So it was
Yeah.
like, and I saw each cut. They did all 5 cuts in the extras,
Yeah.
and in one of them he falls in the middle. He falls on like the second or
Yeah.
third one, and he's got to like wrestle it there so it
Yeah.
doesn't kill him. Amazingly, the others
Wow.
stayed where they were. I was really surprised.
Yeah.
Like the others didn't
Yeah.
move. And
Yeah.
anyway, and then another take, they caught the last one caught his foot, like caught his shoe, got hung up on it, and he had to like
Yeah.
struggle to get free from that one. So he almost died
Wow.
twice trying to film this
Wow. Yeah.
scene. Really, like it
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah, I think eventually how they got it was uh, they put the cleats on his shoe because he would be slipping off of them. So they put like
Mm,
cleats on so it would like get a
mm-hmm.
better grip on the scales of the
Okay.
uh, yeah. Yeah, that's crazy though. That there's no way anything like this would ever happen again in the production of a movie.
No, I think
That
that's probably too dangerous now. They just do it
yeah,
with digital,
yeah,
fake stuff probably.
yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was amazing
What
though.
is what a spectacle this movie is. I think it's like the biggest like as far as stunts go, like they really went all out with this movie with the boats, the planes, the double-decker bus, the crocodiles.
Oh yeah, the double-decker bus when he escapes from the island,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
basically he takes Jane Seymour Solitaire
yeah,
on the bus. She's in the back of the
yeah,
bus. Roger had
yeah,
learned how to drive the bus. He had done like some stunt work, I think before
yeah,
this that they were talking about. He
yeah.
did some training
Yeah,
right
I
before they
remember.
filmed this.
I always thought that was the most amazing thing. Like, how does a double decker bus do a 180?
Right? And Jane
Yeah.
Seymour was actually in the back. She said
What
after the
the
fact,
heck?
she was like, I should not have done that. Like
Oh my
she was
God.
in the retrospective commentary, she was saying like,
Yeah.
I should not have done that, and it made me so sick. Like she just because they had to do multiple takes. They kept doing
What
it
the
over and over.
heck?
And yeah, she just felt like, I mean, it's making her sick, right? Being back there
Yeah.
with the whipping around. And you barely see her right in the scene.
Yeah.
You can see
Yeah.
her, but she was like it could have been anybody back there. It didn't have to be
Yeah.
her.
Wow.
But yeah. So and Roger said when you do it, like it feels like it's gonna tip over, but of course it
Yeah.
doesn't because the double deckers are so well balanced they don't tip
Yeah.
over. And
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty wild. You know.
Yeah. And I like that was a cool ending to that chase too, where kind of reminded me of the scene from the previous movie where Bond goes down the alley and then it goes to the narrow alley, and then like the music changes and the cops like, I got you now. And this
Mm-hmm.
one you see the bus going and then it says like 9 foot clearance, and then it starts playing the dun 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 dun, like, oh, he's not gonna make it, but then he just steps on the
Right.
gas and it just smashes through the tunnel, and the top of the top layer of the bus falls off, and then the cop car runs into that and crashes into a lake.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, it's
with the
incredible, isn't it?
the top of the bus on top of the car.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. But getting back to Teehee, what are the 2 ways to disable a crocodile?
Well, the first way is to stick a pencil right between its eyes, right?
Pressure hole behind its eye, or
But yeah,
behind its
yeah.
ear, or whatever.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And the second,
And what's
that's twice as simple. You just
yeah.
stick your hand in its mouth and pull its teeth out.
Yeah. And then he's so cocky leaving with him and Adam, and then they go back to their drug lab.
Yep.
And then yeah, yeah, I love T. And he has a badass fight scene at the end on a train. Probably the first train fight since From Russia with Love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, at the climax of this, or at the not so much the climax, but like the little special bonus boss fight at the end. Um, but speaking of bosses, we got, before we get to the big guy, Mr. Big, we have Jeffrey Holder playing Baron Samedi.
Right.
Is like one of the most memorable Bond villains. You always see him as a character in the video games. He's like up there with Jaws and Oddjob. Like, he's such an iconic character. And I think
Absolutely.
even at the end, you saw he was on the front of the train, so he had survived the poisonous snakes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they may have wanted him to come back, but he never did, unfortunately. That character,
Oh, that
but
would have been cool if
but
he had.
yeah, yeah, but Baron Samedi, the what is it's based on a true mythical figure within or a figure within the voodoo lore, like the Lord of
Right.
the
Isn't
the
he like the
Dead.
Lord of the Dead, I think, or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But for you, just an entertainer for you fabulous people.
Right.
And but Jeffrey Elder really hams it up with all of his dance choreography, like, such a perfect character for this movie. What do you think of Baron Samedi?
Yeah, he's a great villain, right? He definitely just made it super creepy and added to the
Hmm.
whole fear for Sam Monique.
Yeah,
He's a really good
yeah,
ringleader, I think, for like the fear campaign of
yeah,
Sam Monique, all of that. and must have
Yeah.
seemed in '73 like some very exotic stuff, very bizarre,
Yeah.
uh, and yeah, you can see how. I mean, it would have worked. It was a good scheme, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
as far as keeping people
Uh,
off of the island went,
yeah.
and as far as the performance goes too, I mean, Jeffrey's great as uh, as the character, and obviously a really great dancer, choreographer to organize all that stuff, and
Yeah.
had an amazing wardrobe. Let's talk about that
Yeah.
for a minute. The
I guess
wardrobe for these
I guess
guys was incredible.
yeah, he designed all those himself. All of his wardrobe he designed. Did you
Oh,
know
really?
that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's very
That's
cool.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he's such a
Oh,
fun character too, because even when
yeah.
once Mr. Big Kananga figures out that Bond
Hmm.
slept with Solitaire and she can't see the future anymore, he's
Hmm.
decided to kill her. Baron Samity's in the
Hmm.
room, right? And he hands Kananga the card on fire, and then
Yeah.
from the deck.
Yeah.
And Kadanga just
Yeah.
immediately puts it out, like, and throws it
Yeah.
away. He's just like this foolishness, like
Yeah.
ridiculous, like it's so funny the
Yeah.
difference in characters, right? He's all about the
Yeah.
practicality, and Baron Samedi's all about the
Yeah.
voodoo and
Yeah. The
the the
theatrics. Yeah.
theatrics. It's just it's really
Yeah.
funny. The
Yeah. I
two of
love
them
it.
together. It's like Kananga doesn't even like him. He just uses him, right,
Yeah.
for the fear campaign.
Yeah. Yeah. At
um,
at the
yeah,
end. Yeah. Yeah, at the end too, I thought that was like one of the weirdest moments when the first Baron Samedi came up out of the gravestone. Their little ceremonies going on, and they tap the gravestone 3 times with the machete,
right.
and then here comes Baron. They put the hat on the ground, and then here comes his body raises up out of the grave with a hat. I go, whoa, this is weird. This is a Bond movie. It's like a zombie movie or something. And
Hmm.
then but then Bond shoots him, and then it blows the top of his head off, and it's like a fake porcelain Baron Samedi, but then he still has his eyes, like his eyes roll up into his head. It's the weirdest thing, that shot where like half of his head's missing and then his eyes roll up,
Right.
and then Bond shoots the whole thing and this shatters into pieces. And then here comes the real Baron Samedi, and everybody kind of reminds me of it's so anticlimactic, kind of like the sword guy from Indiana Jones. Like he's and he's hissing, he's hit, he's hissing and doing a little dance, and the snakes are hissing,
Yep.
and he has a machete. Like, oh man, this guy's gonna fuck up Bond, and then he just and then he runs over. Oh, and then Bond just like blocks him and like uppercuts him and kills him in one blow. Like he knocks him into the snake coffin.
Yep. It was really
He's
funny.
ah.
It was a much better dancer than fighter, it turned out.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
Funny thing about filming that too, Jeffrey was
Yeah.
terrified of snakes
Yeah.
in real life,
Yeah.
right? He did not want to do
Yeah.
that scene, and
Yeah.
the only reason he did it was because Princess Anne was visiting the set that
Yeah.
day, right? And he had such a
Yeah.
respect for royalty that he didn't even question the
Yeah.
director or try to get out of it. He just did the scene.
Yeah.
And boy,
Yeah.
you talk about a
Wow.
lot of. I don't think I respect royalty that much.
Yeah. No.
That's.
I would. Yeah.
He was a little more dedicated than I was, or would have been.
Yeah. Wow. So he really fell in there with real snakes.
Yep. He really fell in
Wow.
backwards. Apparently, to me, it looked like it was
Yeah.
forwards,
Yeah.
but they said it was
Yeah.
backwards. And
Oh,
what's
okay.
what's wild about it to me, they didn't talk about this in
Yeah.
the commentaries and interviews I watched, but wouldn't you think some of the snakes would have bit him just out of a defense?
Yeah.
Sort of
Yeah.
like,
It seemed like he would have. Yeah, it
yeah,
seemed like he would have squished them, and they would have tried to bite him.
yeah. It
Because he was all
really,
flailing. He was all
yeah,
flailing around in there, and his like butt was sticking up, and he was flailing around.
yeah.
He's all, that was fun. Yeah, but then the Bond and Solitaire get on he knows the trick, so him and Solitaire stand over the grave and tap the gravestone 3 times, and then they go down. It's actually an elevator, and we go down into the villain's lair in this, and we get to meet the big man down here. We might as well talk about Kananga, aka Mr. Big.
Right.
They go down into his villain's lair, which is awesome. It's a Sid Kane set. This is Sid Kane again from Russia with Love. I think Peter Lamont, who's worked on all of them, did the sets too, but Sid Kane that did From Russia with Love and OHMSS came back for this one with a wonderful sets designs here where we go meet Mr. Big in his lair,
Yep.
played by Yaphet Kotto. Is it Koto or Kato?
I think it's Kodo, but I could be wrong. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
Yaphet Kotto. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really underrated. Not only is that actor underrated, I think everyone just knows him from like Alien, but that's freaking Mr. Big right there.
Right.
That's Mr. Big. Like he was really young when he played this. He's probably like I think he's like the most underrated Bond villain. Not too many people talk about him, but really great actor. Really plays off suave and sophisticated, and then he can play off like the thuggy Harlem crime boss too. Was Mr. Big. What do you think about Yaphet Kotto as Mr. Big?
Yeah, I think he's one of the best villains in the series. I think that
Yeah,
the actor is amazing in the role. I think
yeah,
he does it perfectly. Like we said before, he was only 29 when they filmed this.
yeah,
He definitely had a
yeah,
more mature presence. He definitely seemed like an older man,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like you said, very focused to be, having Jane Seymour around. He doesn't. He obviously has other women working for him, but you don't really see other women
mhm,
around him much, which is another thing that's kind of
yeah,
interesting about this villain.
uh-huh,
He's very just focused on I guess his goal, and
yeah,
doesn't he's not distracted by women at all, really,
yeah,
in the movie.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, in the book, I guess his only vice, like his only vice other than being an evil crime lord was women in the book. Like he loved the
mhm.
ladies, but in this one, like you said, yeah, he's not really distracted. Like he's down to business, like you're mentioning with the tarot card, like Mr. Flamboyant Theatrical Berenson he has the burning card and he just like shakes it out and he's just down to business. Like he had this beautiful hot women around because he was could tell the future.
Yep.
It's just all business and like really suave, sophisticated guy too. Like a leader of a country. uh, and he has a cool outfit on. He pretty much reminds me like he's Black Blofeld in this.
Right.
Um, he has a cool layer. The actor in the commentary, he like was really into this too. He was talking about he got like because he was kind of young when he did this, so he was kind of impressionable, and he was talking about how he was a Bond fan, and he was like and he was such like Bond was like such an idol to his, and he was so like happy to be in this movie. He was talking about like he wanted to play it up really where Kananga was like suave and sophisticated and like the equal to Bond.
Yeah.
Like when he meets him at the end, he's so suave and sophisticated, and he's talking about like he wants to like show up Bond and show him. He was saying he was playing Kananga as if Kananga was a fan of Bond. Like, oh, Bond's here at my lair. Let me show him around. Like, let me
Right.
show him how cool I am too. I'm just like you, and I kind of see that now. Um, like that. And he was saying like it really got to his head after this movie, like he would go live luxury and he thought he was like Bond after this. He's like, man, I like really got kind of carried away after this. Like I'd go like all travel around and be fancy or do all this fancy stuff. I get super young guy, but he just the way he plays it off on film, he's like seems super like older than he is and it's sophisticated.
Right. Yeah, I thought he was great. And it makes
Yeah,
perfect sense if you watch that last scene that
yeah,
it's like a villain who really likes Bond because he's actually really
yeah,
friendly to him at the
yeah,
end. Some of them
yeah,
are though, because
yeah,
they're so confident
yeah,
that they've won. Usually by
yeah,
that part, right?
yeah,
It's almost like they're just
yeah,
gloating in a way, showing him the
yeah,
rest of the scheme or the final pieces that he didn't know about.
yeah. Oh yeah, like when you see it, like he's all giddy about his little shark gun.
Right, right.
His little this is ingenious. Like it's a shark gun, and and Whisper's giggling over there, and then he shoots. You think he's gonna shoot Whisper and make him blow up, and Whisper's always here, but he shoots the love seat he's on, and the love seat blows up like a big balloon and pops.
Compressed gas pellets
Yeah, yeah,
in action.
yeah, yeah. But I guess that leads up to the finale. Anything else about Kananga before we move on to the finale?
No, I think that's it. I mean, he's
Yeah,
got one of the coolest deaths again of any Bond
yeah,
villain, right? With the
yeah,
compressed gas pellet being
yeah,
swallowed. You know, they blow him
yeah,
up like a balloon.
yeah. So we have a typical Bond type death scenario, something like that. Austin Powers used it later on.
Right.
They're lowering him slowly into the shark tank, and and the sharks are coming in from another tank. Well, and they're opening up the gate. The Kanaga's all slowly whisper, slowly let our diners assemble. So
Right.
all the sharks are going to come in, and they're going to lower him. Solitaire and Bond are tied up. They're going to lower him into the shark pit. Yeah, this movie has everything. Typical Bond layer right here. And then Bond uses his watch to his magnet to get the shark bullet, right?
Yep.
And then he uses the same watch to cut off the ropes, and then so he escapes, and then he swings off and has a little hand-to-hand fight with Kananga.
Can we talk about that
Yeah,
stunt too, where I mean,
yeah,
this thing is suspended over the water. It's this little
yeah,
crane
yeah,
platform, and Bond does a like forward roll off of this thing,
yeah,
catches the edge,
yeah,
and then is like, you know, uh, shaking shaking it back and forth like a pendulum.
yeah,
But the roll
yeah,
over, like he had to do a, legs overhead forward roll
yeah,
off of this thing, grab the
yeah.
edge
You're
of it
right.
and hold on. Like that was, it's super quick in the
Yeah, that's
movie. It's
pretty
like
cool.
half a second, but it
Yeah,
is a awesome stunt, you
yeah,
know,
that's a cool start. Yeah, yeah, I like that one. I wonder if that was Bob Simmons.
right? I don't know. I
Yeah,
didn't hear them
yeah,
talk much about Bob in the
yeah,
commentaries I watched. He did
yeah.
work on this though,
Well,
right?
yeah, I did see he might have just been like the what do you call like the supervisor of the stunts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
he might have
yeah, but that
been.
was a yeah, but then he swings off of there, and he locks up poor Whisper inside of that rocket or that missile thing.
Right. That was hilarious. It was amazing Whisper could fit in that thing. Whisper was
I
huge.
know. Yeah. I guess Gloria Hendry was saying he was really scared about going in the
Was it?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
uh,
little claustrophobia.
yeah, or maybe it was Jane Seymour. One of the women were saying, "Oh, what a lovely man he was." I guess that guy's like super. His name is like Earl Jolly. Like his real name is Jolly. That
Hmm.
actor. Yeah, they were saying he really is jolly. Like he has rosy cheeks and he's always jolly and happy. But they were saying he was scared about going into that little contraption.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he may have been in a movie with Gloria Hendry. That was it.
That's cool.
And then,
Yeah, what
yeah, but
a
then we had
great fight scene at the end too, right? Because then Kananga comes
yeah,
at him with the knife.
yeah, with a knife. Yeah, yeah, and he's doing all of the weird moves like a snake. Like he's the
Yep.
crazy moves with a knife. And he has like the crazy grin on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bond does like a little jujitsu type thing, and then they to disarm him, and then they scuffle around. They both fall into the shark pit, and
Yep.
then here comes the sharks. And then Bond's on top of Kananga, and Kananga sees the sharks, and he flips out. But at that moment, like he opens his mouth, and Bond shoves that shark bullet inside
Yep.
of him, and then Kananga blows up like a human balloon. And he floats up to the ceiling and blows up.
And it shows Jane
Oh man.
Seymour like gripping the crane still on the
Yeah,
platform as this explosion happens. There would have been bits of
yeah.
Kananga all over her
Uh
in real life,
yeah,
but you
there'd
know.
be blood and guts, and it was just
Fortunately,
all
they just
dry.
used a giant balloon, so
Yeah,
it
it was
wasn't.
all dry and simple. Yeah, it was.
Yep.
and, and then yeah, Bond comes up out of the water and she says, "Where's Kananga?"
He always did have an
He always...
inflated opinion of himself.
Yeah. Yeah, so classic, typical Bond. Like this movie is really making these movies are really making their strides at this point. Like they have the formula down, like
Yeah.
with the layers and the villains and the final scenes and all that.
I do think the puns
Oh,
in
what?
this are like some of the best in the series. Like
Yeah,
as like a whole film, I think
yeah,
it might be even the best one. Like it's just one after the other with Roger Moore. He's like so into the
yeah,
puns.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah,
And then the next
yeah.
scene you
Then
see, like she's like, "How will we get out of here?" And we take the train, of course. He points to the monorail, the underground
yeah,
monorail.
yeah,
Then it cuts to them at the train
yeah.
station with
Yes,
Felix, and Felix is saying,
yes.
"I still don't understand what you're gonna do on the train for 16 hours." And Jane
Say
Seymour
goodbye to
like
Felix.
slyly looks at him, yeah, and Bond says, "Say goodbye to Felix, darling." As they get
Yeah.
on the train.
Yeah. And then he teaches her to play. Is he teaching her to play
Gin rummy. Yeah.
gin? Yeah. Yeah.
She beats him, of
Yeah.
course. Like,
Yeah, she beats him, yeah.
uh,
And then we got T. He's setting up the mood for them. He's turning off the lights. It's T.
right.
We get a bonus, the typical Guy Hamilton bonus boss fight at the end.
Yep.
The bonus henchman fight. He ends up he's stowed away in some luggage. He comes out and he destroys the electricity, so they lose power. He's setting up the romantic mood for Bond and Solitaire. and, and I think Bond's in the bathroom and she's laying there on the bed talking to Bond as if he's there. She's like, "Oh, I love the feel of your hand," and you see Teehee claw right there. This part kind of seems like a horror movie too, like the way
Right.
like what with the way he infiltrates the train. And
Yep.
then here comes Bond, Bond out of the bathroom, and T standing there about to snip Jane Seymour's hand. Her eyes are closed. And she's on the top bed,
Yep.
and there's T, and then T knocks her up,
Yep.
kind of like similar to Sean Connery in his bed on "You Only Live Twice." He knocks her up into the wall. She's in there.
Right. Just sort of stuck up there with
Yeah.
the collapsible bed.
But she
And
doesn't know. She thinks
yeah.
Roger did it. She has no idea He's in here. And T says, "Mr. Bond." And then I think Bond throws the deck of cards at him, and then they go in for their fight. Yeah,
Right. It's a pretty great
yeah,
fight. I mean, Roger gets
yeah,
the ladder at one point to the
yeah,
bed, and he's like
yeah,
shoves it into Teehee, and he's breaking it with his
yeah,
metal arm, breaking each peg
yeah,
off of it. It was pretty cool.
yeah,
Pretty
yeah. I
physical
love it.
fight, really. I mean, this is probably the
Yeah,
most physical fight Roger Moore has in the movie. It was probably this one,
yeah. I
right?
think so. Yeah, yeah. Because most of them just end really quick or they're non-existent. But yeah, this is a good fight, kind of really foreshadowing to Jaws in the train scene on The Spy Who
Right.
Loved Me.
He breaks the
But
window, right? They break the window
yeah,
and the super loud. You hear the train, just
yeah,
like in From Russia with Love.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the fight, continues for a bit, but eventually He gets his arm locked on the windowsill
yeah,
that goes up and down. Bond pulls it
yeah,
down and then flips him
yeah,
over and out of the
yeah,
window
yeah,
and rips his arm off in the process.
yeah,
So like the metal
yeah,
arm's just stuck
yeah,
there hanging, and
yeah,
goes to get Solitaire out. And she says, "Well,
yeah.
that wasn't very fun." And he says, or like, "Oh,"
Now
she
what are you
says,
doing?
"Now what are you doing?" Right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, just
yeah.
what does he say? How does he say it?
Disarming, darling.
Right. Then he throws the arm out the window. Yeah.
Yeah.
Disconnects it.
I like yeah, I like how he every time like he uses the villain's weapon against them. Like he had his claw, he snipped it off with like some wire. His white like he saw the tendon, like the wire tendon. He has a cool arm, like it's like a robot arm, like his whole
Right.
arm is a robot.
But he starts snipping
But
them, right? He's got like
yeah, he starts
the
snipping the
pliers.
tendons. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he gets the pliers and he snips them, and that makes his claw get stuck on that hand,
right. And he
the
freaks
handle
out,
of
right, for the first time. It's
yeah.
like he's like, oh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's laughing, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden he's like really nervous
yeah,
because he's been locked there.
yeah.
Bond gut
Yeah,
punches him as soon as he's locked on. He
yeah,
can't
yeah. Then I
move,
think
so
he
he
does
just has
it.
to take
Then
it.
he and then he walks away. He elbows him in the kidney as he
Right?
walks away.
Oh.
Yeah,
And then he flips him out
yeah, I
the
love it.
window.
Yeah, yeah. And then at the end, another baddie's on the train too, and it just cuts to the end after that.
Yeah.
You see
Baron.
Baron Samedi. Yeah, he's sitting on the front of the train. Ah, ha, 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 ha,
Yeah, we
ha,
gotta
ha, ha,
say
ha.
too, like his laugh was
Yeah,
amazing. Jeffrey had the
yeah.
perfect
Oh, I
laugh
love
for
it.
this character.
Yeah,
Super sinister and
yeah,
hilarious at the same time. Like just
yeah,
larger than life. It
yeah,
was great.
yeah. Yeah, he's got to be a pretty tall guy too, huh?
Oh yeah, he was really tall. Uh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
They talked about that
Yeah.
too. Roger said it was amazing how tall he was, but he was he moved so
Uh,
gracefully, from his dancing
yeah.
background and stuff. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
hard for tall men to dance well and be
Yeah.
graceful. Like it's harder
Yeah.
for them, right? Generally.
Yeah.
So he was a very talented fellow.
Yeah. Yeah. Too bad we couldn't see him. I know we got to see him a lot more in the video games, but too bad we couldn't see him in one more movie.
Yeah, it would have been awesome if he came back
Yeah.
for another one. I guess they never really had another villain that was really supernatural like that, though. At least not that I remember.
Yeah.
Because,
No, I
we
guess.
did that show with Vince recently where we were talking about our favorite fantasy movies, and I brought this one up
Yeah.
as if we were gonna do
Yeah.
Bond films, like include that
Yeah. It
as
would be this
fantasy.
one.
Yeah, I would have picked
Yeah.
this one, right? Because
No.
of the
Yeah.
voodoo, and
Yeah.
there was some legit magic in this because Baron
Yes.
Samedi survived, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and then solitaire is like for future, seeing the future and all that.
yep, all that stuff.
I,
Like it's all very
I
supernatural,
yeah, yeah. I guess the closest would be Jaws because he has like supernatural strength.
right? And he basically
Yeah,
dies
yeah,
like 5 times,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
die.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But great closing, and then we get that wonderful Paul McCartney song again in the wings. "Live and Let Die" plays again at the end. We see the flaming skull. It says Bond will be back in The Man with the Golden Gun, which will review next. That'll be our next movie in the
yep.
timeline.
Christopher
But
Lee.
yeah. Oh yeah, probably. I don't know why I didn't. Oh man, I always forget. Like he's probably my favorite villain.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it, Fran Sanchez and Telly Savalas. Oh man, there's so many though. I
They're
can't
so
place
good.
one. Yeah, and even Kananga here. But and then so we'll do that next time. But as far as now though, after I know we both watched this a few times. I watched it 3 times and I couldn't stop watching this movie, Live and Let Die. Has your opinion changed on it after your most recent viewing, or is it about the same?
I just have even more respect for it, I think, learning more about how the stunts were
Yeah,
done and the fact that, Roger Moore was doing a lot of his own stunts was pretty cool, I thought.
yeah,
And, even Jane Seymour being on the bus, she didn't have to be, but
yeah,
she did that, that was pretty
yeah.
cool. And, yeah, just thinking about all the talent involved with this and the time period, like, I
Hmm.
do feel like it's one of the most, reflective of the time in which it was made for, not
Yeah.
only the music and the sets and costume design and all that, but also just race
Hmm.
relations in America at
Yeah.
the time where, this movie highlighted a lot of what was going on historically,
Yeah.
which I thought was pretty cool, that they didn't
Yeah.
shy
Like
away
the
from it, right? That was what was kind of cool about it. It's like they didn't try to
hmm
candy coat it or pretend that racism wasn't
Yeah.
still a big issue in the early 70s.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I
I don't
love
know
the
if
movie.
this
I think
movie.
it's still one of my favorites in the series. I'd
Oh
say
yes,
it's
yeah,
definitely
me
my
too.
favorite Roger Moore film for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure this has been my favorite movie at one point. Like I know I always change my favorite movie, but I remember always saying it a lot. Like this is my favorite Bond movie,
Yep.
just for all the reasons you said, as the best stunts, like the best sequence of stunts, like not just one. There's all kinds of amazing stunts in this action sequences.
Right.
There has the best villain, the best ensemble of villains, I think. Once again, the hot women. We
Speaking
get
of the
Roger
women,
Moore.
real quick before I forget, I
Yeah,
just wanted to mention Tom, the scriptwriter, mentioned
yeah,
that he actually wrote Solitaire's part with Diana Ross in mind as
yeah,
the actress.
yeah,
Which how different would that have been
yeah.
if it had been Diana Ross
Wow, yeah,
in that role?
yes,
I kind of am
yeah,
curious
way
to be
different.
honest. Like I think it would have been
Yeah,
very cool. But I'm glad we got
yeah,
Jane Seymour. And I thought initially when he said that, I was like, oh, well, they didn't do that probably because of the interracial stuff between her and
yeah,
Bond. But then I was like, well, that doesn't really matter
mhm.
though because he hooks up with Rosie, and
Yeah. That's
so
yes,
they crossed that barrier in this movie, which I also
yeah,
thought was pretty cool
yeah.
that
That's another thing.
they had
Yeah,
did that
yeah,
at the time because we knew he'd already been with Asian women and all the European women and stuff.
yeah,
I think this was
yeah.
the first black woman he was with, though. Is that right
Yeah,
in the
I
series?
think so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that was yeah. I forgot to mention that this is the first time he had like a love scene with a black girl, which was I don't know if that was a common thing at the time. I doubt it. I don't know. I think maybe Captain Kirk had kissed Uhura once or
Right. A
twice,
few years before this in the
but,
late 60s.
but I
Yeah.
don't know, in a movie like this, passionate like love scene like that. So yeah, so awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
the yeah, I'm sure it was the first time in Bond movies. I know. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
think if Sean had,
they had
yeah,
implied it a few times, right? There was the black girl
yeah,
who was at Piz
in Her
Gloria.
Majesty's,
Yeah,
yeah,
she was
and then I
there.
think if Sean had his way, he would have gotten on with Thumper, but then she
Yeah.
kneed him in the nuts.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That was a disappointing swim lesson for
yeah,
him, I think. Yeah, overall.
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
but yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought that was an interesting piece of trivia. As far as
yeah.
it
No,
could have
you're
been
right.
Diana Ross in that role, and it would have been that would have made it so different, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that'd have been yeah. I'm sure I would have loved it just the same, but it would have been a lot different. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah, but continue. What did you think? How do you feel about it now versus before
Oh,
this viewing?
yeah, I don't know. It's got to be the same or more. Like every time I watch a Bond movie, I like it more.
Hmm.
So I already liked it a lot. It was already top tier for me for all those reasons we mentioned. But just after watching all of these wonderful commentaries on this wonderful HD Blu-ray set, all these wonderful extras, learning more about it. This is like one of the movies you really want to delve into, like because so much is going on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, just love this movie. Yeah, and I think it. Yeah,
Amazing production value. Well,
yeah, amazing production value.
diving into how they did all
Yeah,
this stuff. It was so
hmm
cool to hear
yeah,
watch the
hmm
documentaries and see the
yeah,
just more behind the scenes for the movie.
yeah,
This is a good one to watch. That's why I listened to the whole Roger Moore
yeah,
commentary too, because I thought it'd be
yeah,
pretty interesting being his first film. He'd have a lot of input, and
yeah,
it didn't disappoint. It was great.
yeah. I know he wrote a book about it too, didn't he? About his filming on this movie. I forget what it's called,
Oh, I
but
didn't know about that. That would be interesting.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I should look into that. He may have. Maybe I could try to find an audio book of it because I know Roger Moore does audio reads.
Okay.
Have you ever heard him do an? I don't know about Bond movies, but I've seen he's done like audio reads of books, and he has that perfect voice. Like his voice is so good.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
I didn't know that.
so I wonder if he.
Has he ever done audio readings of the Bond books?
I don't think so, but I wonder if he has one of his own book he wrote. That's what I'm wondering right now. But
Okay. Yeah,
uh,
that'd be interesting.
the one about the and I guess Roger was really nervous. You wouldn't expect that guy to be the type of person that would be nervous
Right.
Because he's like so he's like such like he's always what do you call it, like goofing around and
Right.
playing jokes on people, and he always has that type of humor too, where he's like insults himself. What's that word? Like
Self-deprecating humor.
yeah, self-deprecating humor. Like he never takes himself seriously, and he's always
Right,
like the
right.
butt of his own jokes. Like real like but I guess he was super nervous. Like he couldn't even sit at the first screening of this, like with all the celebrities, or what's it called, like the
Oh,
premiere.
right,
Like
right.
he was too nervous, and he was nervous about being Bond, which I'm surprised. Yeah,
Well, he was probably nervous about like how the public would take it, but isn't that the one where
yeah,
he was at the premiere and Sammy Davis Jr. like said something or he laughed at a joke
yeah,
and then everybody else laughed
yeah,
or whatever and that
yeah.
from then
Oh
on
right,
he
yeah, yeah.
felt good about it. I forget what the part
Oh
was in the
good.
movie, but Sammy Davis
Oh
liked it, I
okay.
think, like pretty early on and
Yeah.
that helped relax Roger Moore.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right on.
Yeah. I mean, he may have been concerned with just how the black community would, perceive it
Oh,
too.
that's
That,
true.
you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that because there were so many black actors in it,
Yeah.
and you know, I, we
Yeah.
mentioned the word black exploitation. I don't know how much
Hmm.
that applies to a movie like this being such a big budget, picture at the time and
Yeah.
how people were paid or whatever, but certainly that
Hmm.
was an issue of the movies in the 70s, right? Black actors were traditionally paid a lot less than white actors,
Yeah.
and that's why
Yeah.
there were so many of those movies that got made with black actors because they were so
Yeah.
cheap to make
Yeah.
compared
Yeah.
to trying to do movies with white actors. So,
Yeah. They're pretty darn good though. I'll take them.
oh yeah, man,
Have you ever
Foxy
watched?
Brown,
Yeah.
one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies of
Oh, I
that
love
time,
that one.
with
Oh, that's
Pam
so
Grier,
good. Yeah, and yeah, I like all of hers, like Friday Foster I mentioned earlier, and Cleopatra Jones, and what was the
right?
other one? Coffee. That's probably the best one.
Coffee. Oh,
Coffee.
Coffee's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah,
Yeah, Coffee's such a good movie.
yeah,
Yeah, with
yeah.
Pam Grier.
Cleopatra Jones. I like all the what and Fred Williamson too. That's my man. Like if there's a guy I think this is cool as Sean Connery, it's Fred Williamson.
Yeah.
And you talk about the race thing, like this, sometimes this movie gets shade because all the black guys are bad and there's a white
Mm-hmm.
guy killing them all.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter. Like if the bad guys are bad and they're good at it and the good guy is good, it doesn't matter. Just like Fred Williamson movies, like always the white guys, the shady shithead like villain,
Right, right.
and
Well,
they're
and
always throwing
it's
shades,
not even
but it's badass. It's not about it's just like that's the bad guy, and you want to see him go down. You want to see Fred
right.
Williamson prevail. Yeah,
Well, in this one,
yeah,
it's like I love the
hmm
Mr. Big and Kananga.
hmm
In the
hmm
commentary, I think they said that, it was like he saw himself as Bond a little bit,
yeah,
or as the hero, rather. Like he saw himself as the
yeah,
hero. He's the hero. When you're playing the villain, you're the hero in your own head, right?
yeah,
Of your own
yeah,
story. So
yeah,
everything you do, you're
yeah,
convinced like it's the right thing to do. And,
yeah,
so it's your story, which I thought was really cool. You can really see that in this movie. This
yeah,
movie is about Mr. Big,
yeah,
right? It's about Kananga's
yes,
scheme, and all of it. Like
yeah,
he's the main man in this, right? And he's a black guy.
yeah,
It's kind of cool at the time that, there could
yeah,
be a black guy in charge of all of the. All right, this is
uh,
a sophisticated plot. This is a
yes,
really
mhm,
impressive setup that this villain has as far as like the
yeah,
network that this guy has. I mean, right from the beginning, Bond
yeah,
is getting followed by everybody. Everybody
yes,
in New York works for Mr. Big,
uh,
basically, right? Except
yeah,
Strutter. And even
yeah,
Strutter is a
yeah,
double agent, so he technically still has to do some work
yeah,
for Mr. Big,
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. You're right.
it's sort of funny, like from that so from that perspective, I think it's I just think it's kind of cool that it wasn't just some white
Uh-huh.
guy who was
Mm-hmm.
the head of the family or whatever, or the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. It was
Yeah.
actually a black guy that was calling all the shots for this
Yeah.
plot, and he's super
Yeah.
rich and powerful and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff to pull this off.
Yeah, and that goes all the way back to the novel written in the 50s. I know that novel gets shade too, like, oh, it's racist the way he makes black people talk. Like, I don't know how they talked in Harlem in 50. I'm sure they don't talk like how I talk,
Right.
but the novel was all about that. Like there's the black guy that's the super a mastermind has more power than any gangster in the world, and like that was kind of like the idea, like that population had kind of been held down, but you
Right.
see like that population is rising up, and in the book it mentions like the African Americans they were the slaves and oppressed before, but now they're coming up and they're becoming doctors and lawyers
Yep.
and becoming rich and successful. But just with all of the good people coming up in the world, there's always got to be a bad one. And
Right.
Mr. Big turned out to be like the most successful evil mastermind in the United States or whatever.
Right.
So it even went,
He's like the
yeah,
Goldfinger, right?
yeah,
He's the Goldfinger of
yeah,
the black community.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
a really successful criminal who just
yeah,
he got so much power. He's worked
mm,
on this scheme to this
yeah,
brilliant scheme to drive all of the mob bosses out of the drug business and,
yeah,
completely dominate that industry while doubling the number of addicts in America at the same
yeah,
time. I mean, the amount of
yeah,
money he was going to make from this was unbelievable. If you did the
yeah.
math on it all, it was crazy.
Yeah. Also, I was getting back to Yaphet Kato's performance. I think he gives more emotion than Bond ever really does.
Oh yeah.
Like, like, uh, like he, like you don't really see this much from villains, where you kind of like see what they have emotions. Like he's genuinely like hurt that Solitaire would betray him.
Oh yeah.
You see how angry he's almost sad, but then he's angry and he hits her. Like I would have given you love, or
Right.
yeah, when the time came, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
he plays that whole sequence so well.
yeah,
How mad he is at Roger
yeah,
Moore, and Roger Moore plays off of
yeah,
it so well, right? When he's super
yeah. I
angry,
love it.
about
Yeah,
asking him if he touched solitaire and everything, and
yeah, yeah. That's what I love
oh,
about Roger Moore.
it's
Yeah,
not the sort of question a gentleman answers.
yeah, yeah. First he says, yeah. First when he says Mr. Big, that's between Kananga, the girl, and myself, and then he takes off the mask, and it really is Kananga.
Yep.
That's not the type of answer a gentleman, or that's not the type of question a gentleman would answer.
Yeah, so great. And Kananga, you
Yeah,
can tell how angry Kananga is at
I
it.
know.
He's so mad. And
Yeah,
but yeah, that's like the most emotional thing. He does the
yeah,
anger, and then he's
yeah,
genuinely
yeah,
sad about solitaire and
yeah,
mad at solitaire at the
yeah,
same time. Like he's got a great
yeah,
range, dramatic range
yeah,
in that scene to do. And that was all
yeah,
probably done in one or two shots, right? There's not a lot of cuts in that
yeah.
scene. So it was very, very well
Mm,
done. Yeah, I mean, again, as villains go, I think he's one of the
yeah,
best in the whole series.
yeah. What best movie? My favorite Bond. Probably one of the best villains. I would say Jaws is my favorite henchman, but as far as ensemble of like a whole line of henchmen, this one's the best.
Yeah, the whole crew
I
together, this
might.
is hard to beat. This is a lot of
Yeah,
memorable characters
yeah,
in one
yeah.
caper.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, right on. But I have a lot of work to do, so hopefully we can start cranking these out.
Right?
But anything else you have planned, Wubs?
Yeah, I'm just continuing to slowly do some editing on my top 5 videos. I've got like 3 or 4, I think, interviews recorded. I just have to do the video editing for them.
Hmm.
A lot of work goes into those, right? Because I like to get video game
Hmm.
clips and music, so I try to edit everything together so it flows really well. That's not just a
Hmm.
podcast. That's more of an actual show that I produce
Yeah.
myself. So it takes a lot of time, and I love doing it, but as we all know, we all have different commitments and things we're doing in life. I could do it all day, every day, honestly, and I wouldn't get bored. But so many other things, you know, that I'm working on. So hopefully, I'll have a new episode soon, though.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Check out my top 5 Wubs' personal channel. I'm sure by the time this is uploaded, there'll be some over there to watch. So go check those out.
Right.
Yeah, and then keep them. Yeah.
We've also talked about doing a Bond game specific episode where Tylord, you know, talks about his favorite Bond video games. So maybe we'll do that soon. Yeah,
I forgot to mention. Yeah, I forgot to mention that we actually were planning on recording that today, but we were in such the live and let die mood. We threw this together last minute, and I think it turned out wonderful.
I do too. I mean, it's great because you watched the movie 3 times, I watched it twice, and I watched all of the extras, you know, along with the Roger Moore commentary, and then I was rewatching the boat chase and, you know, different scenes just for fun. The Blu-rays again are so cool, right? You can go into the extras of the Blu-rays and just watch the specific scenes so easily. And the highlights, it's great. So yeah, I spent a lot of time with the movie this week. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. I guess that's it. Unless you have anything else to say. You got anything else to say, Wubs?
What, you expect me to talk more?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die!
Well done, boys. Another successful mission. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this debriefing, please like and share it with your friends.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die!